Hello everyone, Omni Sensei here with What If I Was Reborn as TOJI in DBZ with Frieza's Potential, Part 3. If you enjoy this content, please smash the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the original story linked in the description. I hope you enjoy listening to it.
The white marble tiles of Kami's lookout gleamed in the afternoon sun, the platform hovering silently above the earth. Despite its peaceful appearance, tension hung thick in the air as the Z fighters gathered in a loose circle, their expressions grim. Bulma paced nervously, checking her watch for the third time in as many minutes. 3 days, she muttered. Just 3 days until that cooler guy arrives. Piccolo stood at the edge of the lookout, his cape billowing in the high-altitude wind as he stared into the distance. 3 days to prepare for what might be our final battle. Vegeta scoffed, arms crossed over his chest. Speak for yourself, Namekian. I have no intention of dying to that demon. Easy to say, Krillin remarked, sitting cross-legged on the tiles. But King Kai made it sound like Cooler's even stronger than Frieza. He probably is, Vegeta stated, his expression darkening. Cooler has always been, from what I heard in rare rumors, trying to surpass his bro. No, sister. Vegeta slightly shuddered at the thought, and the image Nappa previously imparted into his mind of TOJI and Frieza doing it. He wanted to claw his brains out. Frieza was born stronger. That's why she was chosen to lead the Empire despite being younger. Goku, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. Vegeta, you mentioned something about Zenkai boosts during our trip here. Can you explain how they work again? I'm still a bit confused. The Saiyang Prince threw Goku an annoyed look, but did so anyway. The Zenkai boost isn't as simple as just getting stronger after healing, as many Saiyans previously believed, even myself, until recent circumstances. Vegeta began, uncrossing his arms. It's based on 2 primary factors. The severity of damage taken and who the Saiyang is trying to surpass and what they know of their power. Surpass? Wait, isn't this what you told TOJI when you first came to Earth? Gohan asked, his young face scrunched in concentration. Yes, brat, Vegeta replied, though without his usual venom. A Saiyan's body adapts specifically to overcome the power that defeated it. When TOJI gave me that Senzu Bin after our battle, I could feel my power growing to match a fraction of what my body sensed from him, sensed from how much force was used against me. That's why your power level jumped so dramatically, Piccolo observed. You weren't just healing from injuries, you were adapting to a specific opponent. Precisely, Vegeta nodded. My power increased because my body was trying to catch up to TOJI's. But there are limits. No matter how many times I nearly die, I can't suddenly jump to his level. My body first needs to adapt to the power obtained. So that's why TOJI wanted to beat you up during our trip to Namek. It was to let you sense his power, and then to let you heal, Bulma realized. He was trying to maximize your Zenkai boost. A strategy one might have appreciated being consulted on first, Vegeta grumbled. Nappa, who had been standing slightly apart from the others, grunted in agreement. That's why Saiyang training was always so brutal. We weren't just building strength, we were forcing adaptation. Yes, and now with myself, and Nappa able to sense ki, our bodies are able to now know from our souls what the true power is of our opponents, and not simply getting to know it from the force of their blows. Piccolo at the mention of sensing suddenly stiffened, his antennae twitching slightly. We should extend our key sense then, he suggested. If we focus, we might be able to track Cooler's approach, and you'll know what you says will know what you're up against better than when we were on Namek during all the chaos. Good idea, who knows, maybe he's gone faster or something. King Kai did say he couldn't always keep an eye on Frieza. I bet the same thing with this Cooler, Goku agreed, closing his eyes. Everyone, concentrate. Reach out as far as you can. It's best we all try and sense, to know more accurately. One by one, they closed their eyes, extending their awareness beyond the lookout, beyond Earth's atmosphere, into the cold vastness of space. At first, there was nothing but the familiar signatures of life on Earth. Then, there! Vegeta hissed, his face contorting. Do you feel it? They did. A massive, malevolent presence moving steadily toward Earth. Cooler's key signature was overwhelming, a vast, dark ocean of power that seemed to dwarf the galaxy itself. And to dwarf something with sheer key volume meant being able to easily destroy it. It felt as if the entire universe was being compressed by his approach, the pressure of his energy palpable even across such a distance. Krillin collapsed onto his backside, his face pale with shock. That's impossible, he whispered, voice trembling. He's at least 7,000 times stronger than Vegeta. Even someone twice as strong is almost impossible to beat, but this... We're doomed, he finished weakly. Gohan's small frame was shaking, but he remained standing. How did TOJI fight both him and Frieza at the same time? He asked, his voice barely audible. And force Cooler to flee. Don't compare yourselves to the likes of him, Vegeta snapped, though sweat beaded on his forehead from the effort of keeping himself steady, and finally truly sensing the powers of these monsters. During Namek not having done so in fear of losing hope there and then as well. TOJI is a freak of nature. He doesn't follow the same rules as the rest of us. Vegeta's right, Piccolo agreed, opening his eyes and breaking his concentration. TOJI's just different. He's human, but it's almost like he's built from something else. Comparing ourselves to him is pointless and unwise. It will only weaken our resolve, leading to our deaths. Goku's expression was unusually serious as he opened his eyes. Cooler's even stronger than I imagined. We'll need every advantage we can get. Bulma stepped forward, reaching into her pocket. Speaking of advantages, she said, pulling out a small capsule. My dad improved the gravity chamber while you were gone. This one can go up to 500 times Earth's gravity. She handed it to Goku, along with a small case. And here are a couple hundred food capsules. Should last you 10 years, even with your appetite. Goku's face lit up with genuine gratitude. Wow, Bulma. Thanks a ton. This is going to help so much. We need to divide responsibilities, Piccolo stated, bringing them back to the matter at hand. Time is limited. Kakarot and I will train in the hyperbolic time chamber, Vegeta declared, his tone leaving no room for argument. Piccolo nodded. I'll train Gohan outside. It won't help much against Cooler, but I refuse to sit around doing nothing. Same here, Krillin agreed, though his expression remained grim. Even if we're, well, useless against someone that powerful. I'll hold the fort in case Cooler arrives sooner than expected, Nappa volunteered, surprising everyone. I can stall him with my Great Ape form, though not for long. Maybe a minute at most, and that's only because the freak hates Sairs and will probably torture me before killing me. Goku suddenly snapped his fingers. We should probably stock up on more senzu beans. I'll go talk to Korin. Before anyone could respond, he enveloped himself in ki and flew into the sky downward Kami's lookout to Korin's place. Korin's tower stood like a needle piercing the sky, its white structure extending impossibly high above the ground. Within its curved top level, Master Korin was tending to his prized senzu plants when Goku arrived directly in front of him through sheer speed. Gah! The white cat exclaimed, nearly dropping his watering can. A little warning next time, Goku. Sorry, Korin, Goku said with an apologetic grin, rubbing the back of his head. We're kind of in a hurry. Do you have any senzu beans? Korin set down his watering can and hobbled over to a small pot on a shelf. I've been working overtime this past month, he explained, removing the lid to reveal a small pile of green beans. Got 32 of them here. Had to keep Yajirobe from eating any, that was the real challenge. From somewhere deeper in the tower, Yajirobe's voice called out defensively, I heard that. Goku counted the beans, adding them to his own pouch. That makes 38 total with the 6 I still have. This is perfect, Korin. You're a lifesaver. The Cat Master twirled his staff thoughtfully. I've sensed what's coming, Goku. These beans might make the difference between life and death. Goku's expression sobered. I know. We're going to need every advantage we can get. The beans will help, Korin agreed, but don't rely solely on them. Natural healing is still important. Right, Goku nodded, enveloping himself in ki again. Thanks, Korin. I owe you one. You owe me several hundred at this point, the cat muttered as Goku flew away. When Goku arrived back at the lookout, he found the others waiting expectantly. Got them, he announced, holding up the pouch. 38 Senzu beans total. Excellent, Piccolo nodded. That should be enough to heal any injuries during the battle. No, Vegeta suddenly said as he snatched the pouch from Goku's hand. These will be our key to success. Kakarot and I will take 34 of them. We're going to abuse the Zenkai ability we possess, driving ourselves to near death constantly and healing with them. Vegeta explained as he looked sharply at Goku, daring him to contradict him and his ways. The remaining 4 will be for the battle. Vegeta said as he pulled out 4 Senzu beans and threw them at Piccolo, who caught them. Seeing no one protesting, Kami stepped forward, his face lined with concern. Before you enter the time chamber, there's something you must know. Both Goku and Vegeta turned their attention to the Guardian of Earth. The hyperbolic time chamber has strict rules, Kami explained, leaning heavily on his staff. You can only remain inside for exactly 1 year of chamber time, which is 24 hours in the outside world. His expression grew more severe. If you stay even a moment longer, the door will vanish, and you'll be trapped forever. 1 year exactly, Goku repeated, nodding seriously. Got it. Also, Kami continued, the conditions inside are harsh. The temperature fluctuates between extreme heat and cold. The air is thinner. Gravity increases the further you move from the entrance. Perfect training conditions, Vegeta remarked with a predatory smile. Mr. Popo stepped forward, gesturing toward a heavy wooden door set into the main building of the lookout. This way, please. As they approached the door, Bulma rushed forward, grabbing Goku's arm. Be careful in there, she said, her voice tight with concern. And make sure you come out stronger. Goku gave her his trademark grin. Don't worry, Bulma. We'll be ready for cooler when we come out. Vegeta scoffed as they reached the door. Just don't slow us down with your hesitation, Kakarot. I have no intention of you going soft on me like you would your friends. This will be a year of constant near-death battles, you got that. Don't make me waste time having to babysit you. Or, come on, Vegeta, Goku replied cheerfully. You should trust me, I'm not afraid of dying, you know. Besides, Goku's expression turned a bit more vengeful as a smirk appeared on his face. I can't wait to beat you up for what you and Nappa did to Tien, Chiaotzu, and Yamcha. Don't think I'm satisfied with what happened till I break at least once every one bone in your body. I'd like to do the same with Nappa, but you'll do for now. Everyone looked at Goku as if he'd grown a second head. Hey, Krillin. Don't you think Goku's been kind of different lately? Bulma whispered, leaning slightly towards Krillin next to her. Yeah, he has. Don't know why though. He hasn't been the same since we'd gone on our trip to Namek. Krillin whispered back. I have my own theories about that, Piccolo suddenly whispered from behind them, entering the conversation. I remember distinctly when I was flying towards Raditz when he met Goku at the old man's place, hearing how Goku hit his head when he arrived on Earth. I think it has to do with that. What do you mean? Bulma whispered back. I don't know if you remember, but during our trip, Goku and TOJI sparred a couple times, Piccolo began. Wait, Krillin interrupted, his tone a bit louder than he intended, causing him to lower it into a whisper again. You mean when Toji hit Goku really hard on his head that one time? Punched him so hard his head made a dent in the chamber. Piccolo nodded. I checked, and I saw a scar where he was hit from when his hair split away for a moment. Toji hit him right where his old injury was, before their conversation could continue, Mr. Popo suddenly opened the heavy door, the sound catching everyone's attention, revealing a blinding white light beyond. Goku and Vegeta exchanged one final glance before stepping through together. The door closed behind them with a heavy thud that seemed to echo across the lookout. After a long moment of silence, Piccolo broke it. And now, Piccolo said grimly, turning to Gohan, we prepare as best we can. Earlier conversation for a moment forgotten. Whiteness. That was Goku's first impression as he stepped through the heavy wooden door into the hyperbolic time chamber. Endless, boundless whiteness stretching in all directions, with no horizon to separate sky from ground. The air felt thin in his lungs, each breath requiring more effort than the last. The temperature, pleasantly cool near the entrance, already promised extremes beyond. So this is it, Vegeta remarked beside him, his voice carrying a hint of awe despite his attempt to sound unimpressed. The Room of Spirit and Time. Before them stood a simple building, the only structure in this infinite void. 2 beds, a bathroom, a kitchen, and a food storage area were visible through the open doorway. Yep, Goku confirmed cheerfully, stretching his arms above his head. I was here once before as a kid, but I couldn't handle it. The gravity, the temperature changes. It was too much back then. Vegeta scoffed, moving toward the living quarters. I'm not surprised. You were a low-class warrior with no proper training. He surveyed the simple accommodations with a critical eye. This will do, I suppose. Goku followed, setting down the capsules Bulma had provided on a small table. So, how do you want to do this, Vegeta? Should we set up our spaces first or jump right into training? The Saiyang Prince turned to face him, his expression deadly serious. We have 1 year in here, Kakarot. 1 year to prepare for a being whose power dwarfs anything we've ever faced. We don't have time for pleasantries. Without warning, Vegeta lunged forward, his fist connecting solidly with Goku's jaw. The impact sent the younger Saiyang flying backward, crashing through the doorway into the white void beyond. What the dash, Goku sputtered, wiping blood from his lip as he scrambled to his feet. The gravity outside the building was noticeably stronger, making his movement slightly sluggish for a moment till he adjusted. Vegeta emerged from the building, his aura flaring around him. Our mission is clear, Kakarot. We fight until we're near death, heal with the Senzu beans, and repeat. The Zenkai boosts will increase our power exponentially. Goku's initial surprise gave way to understanding. He settled into his fighting stance, a small smile playing at his lips. All right, Vegeta. If that's how you want to play it. This isn't play, Vegeta snarled, charging forward. This is survival. Their fists collided with thunderous force, creating shockwaves that would have flattened mountains had they been on Earth. The battle began in earnest, no holding back, no restraint. Vegeta fought with fury, each strike aimed at vital points. Goku countered with his adaptive style, constantly shifting between offense and defense. Hours passed as they tested each other's limits, the endless white void bearing silent witness to their struggle. Finally, after a particularly vicious exchange that left both warriors bloodied and panting, Vegeta raised his hand. Enough for now. We need to establish parameters. Goku nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. What did you have in mind? We need to be strategic with the Senzu beans, Vegeta explained, moving back toward the building. We have 34 beans between us. That's 17 Zenkai boosts each if we use them optimally. Inside, they sat at the small table, both still catching their breath. First rule, Vegeta continued, we fight until one of us is critically injured, not just tired or beaten, but truly near death as in the Reaper's scythe is around our necks. only inches more till it rips us from this mortal coil. That's when the Zenkai boost will be most effective. Goku frowned slightly. That's pretty extreme, Vegeta. Extreme circumstances call for extreme measures, Vegeta replied coldly. Cooler won't show us mercy. We can't afford to be soft. After a moment's consideration, Goku nodded. All right. But we should take turns. One day you push me to the brink, the next day I do the same to you. That way, we both get stronger at a steady pace. Vegeta seemed surprised by the suggestion, having expected more resistance. Acceptable. And Goku added, his expression unusually serious, we should save some time for technique training. Raw power isn't everything. Says the man who's never had enough of it, Vegeta muttered, but he didn't disagree. Fine. Power training first, techniques later when we've reached higher plateaus. They ate a quick meal from the supplies Bulma had provided, then returned to the void. This time, their battle's purpose was clear. Vegeta was to push Goku to the edge of death. The prince didn't hold back. His attacks grew increasingly brutal, targeting joints, vital organs, and pressure points. Goku defended admirably, but Vegeta's single-minded determination eventually overwhelmed him. Goku also not fighting his absolute hardest to injure Vegeta, since currently it was his own turn to be near death, not Vegeta's. A devastating knee to the solar plexus, followed by a hammer blow to the back of the neck, left Goku crumpled on the ground, blood pooling beneath him. Vegeta stood over him, breathing heavily. After a long moment, waiting for Goku to bleed out more, Senzu, he commanded, holding out his hand. Goku, barely conscious, fumbled with the pouch at his waist. With trembling fingers, he extracted a bean and handed it to Vegeta. The prince knelt beside his fallen opponent, roughly shoving the bean into Goku's mouth. Chew, he ordered. Goku complied, the healing properties of the Senzu bean taking effect immediately. His wounds closed, broken bones knitted themselves back together, and vitality returned to his body. He sat up, rolling his shoulders experimentally. Wow, he murmured, a grin spreading across his face. I can feel it already. The power increase is crazy. Vegeta nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. Your power level has increased by at least 15%. Now it's your turn. Goku's grin faded, replaced by determination. Right. Get ready, Vegeta. I won't hold back either. True to his word, Goku unleashed his full might against the Saiyang Prince. The battle raged for hours, neither warrior yielding an inch. But Goku had been watching Vegeta's style carefully during their previous sparring sessions. He knew the prince's tendencies, his favorite combinations, his defensive habits. With a perfectly timed feint, Goku created an opening in Vegeta's guard. The follow-up attack? Activating Kaioken X3 for an instant and bestowing a devastating combination of strikes culminating in a point-blank Kamehameha, left Vegeta broken, bleeding. Every bone in his body near shattered, and barely breathing. Goku also waited for a long moment for Vegeta's vitals to drop, his heart to slow down. True to his promise of breaking every bone in Vegeta's body at least once. Here, Goku said softly, placing a Senzu bean against Vegeta's lips. The prince swallowed it with difficulty, his body healing rapidly. As he regained his strength, Vegeta's eyes burned with a mixture of rage and respect. Not bad, he admitted grudgingly, standing up. Your power has truly increased, I felt it in your blows. Now, so has yours, Goku observed. This is working better than I expected. Day 1 in the hyperbolic time chamber ended with both warriors exhausted but significantly stronger than when they had entered. As they retreated to their separate beds, neither spoke of the tough day they had endured or the 364 more that awaited them. But both understood what was at stake and that this wasn't even close to enough. The routine established itself quickly over the first 2 weeks. Each day began with a brief warm-up, followed by intensive combat that invariably ended with one of them very injured or not completely near death, left to heal, and continued training with a near-broken body, until finally, after days upon days, the senzu was used. This way they could make do with 17 powerful Zenkais over the span of the entire year, and not use all their senzu beams too soon. Between these brutal sessions, they ate, rested, and occasionally spoke, though conversation was sparse at first, limited primarily to critiques of fighting techniques or observations about their increasing strength. On the 15th day, as they sat eating a simple meal after another spar, Goku broke their usual silence with an unexpected question. "What was it like?" he asked, setting down his bowl. "Planet Vegeta, I mean." Vegeta looked up sharply, his expression guarded. "Why do you care?" Goku shrugged. "I was born there, but I don't remember any of it. Seems like something I should know about." For a long moment, Vegeta said nothing, seemingly debating whether to indulge this line of conversation. Finally, he spoke, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. It was red. The sky, the soil, even the vegetation had reddish tints. The gravity was 10 times that of Earth, which is why we Saiyans are naturally stronger than most species. Goku listened intently, his food temporarily forgotten. The cities were built for function, not beauty, Vegeta continued, his gaze distant as if seeing it all again. Training facilities, barracks, launch pads for attack pods. Everything served the purpose of creating better warriors. "What about families?" Goku asked. "Did Saiyans live together like humans do?" Vegeta scoffed. "Not like humans, no. Saiyang children were evaluated at birth. The strong remained with their families for basic training. The weak were sent to conquer low-level planets." He paused, giving Goku a pointed look. "Like you were." Goku absorbed this information without a visible reaction. "And the food? What did Saiyans eat on planet Vegeta?" This question seemed to catch Vegeta off guard. "Food? We ate meat primarily. Large beasts that roamed the plains. Some root vegetables that could survive the harsh conditions." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Nothing as varied as Earth cuisine, but hearty. Filling. I bet I would have liked it," Goku said cheerfully. "I love meat." Vegeta stared at him for a moment, then shook his head in disbelief. "Only you would focus on the food, Kakarot." "Hey, food's important." Goku protested with a laugh. The conversation ended there, but something had changed. A small crack was formed in the wall that is Vegeta's perpetual hostility. The next day, as they prepared for another brutal training session, Goku noticed Vegeta watching him. "What?" Goku asked, stretching his arms above his head. "You fight like no Saiyang I've ever seen," Vegeta remarked. "Your technique, it's unorthodox." Goku grinned. "I've had a lot of different teachers over the years. Master Roshi, Korin, Kami, King Kai. I took something from each of them." Vegeta considered this. Perhaps there is some value in that approach. Traditional Saiyang combat training was effective but predictable. "I could show you some of what I've learned," Goku offered. "Might give you some new ideas." The prince's pride warred visibly with his practical nature. Finally, pragmatism won out. "Very well. But don't expect me to adopt your clownish style completely." Goku's face lit up. "Great! Let's start with some of Master Roshi's fundamentals. They're simple but really effective." The day's training session changed. Still intense, still pushing their limits, but with moments of instruction interspersed between the brutally beating each other to near death. By the end of the first month, their power levels had nearly doubled from their starting points. Goku had reached approximately 200,000, while Vegeta had surpassed 400,000. More importantly, though neither would acknowledge it, they had begun to develop something resembling a working relationship, not friendship. Hell no, too soon, but a recognition of value that transcended their previous antagonism. Kaioken times 3. The crimson aura erupted around Goku, his power level tripling instantly as he charged at Vegeta. The prince barely had time to cross his arms in defense before Goku's fist connected. The impact sent Vegeta flying backward, his body carving a trench in the endless white floor of the chamber. He recovered quickly, flipping to his feet with a snarl. "Is that the best you can do, Kakarot?" He taunted, though blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. "I thought the Kaioken could go higher than that." Goku maintained the red aura, sweat beading on his forehead from the strain. "It can, but I'm still working on controlling it. King Kai warned me that pushing it too far could tear my body apart." Vegeta launched himself forward, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts. "Then what good is it? A technique that destroys its user is worthless." Dodging the blasts with enhanced speed, Goku appeared behind Vegeta, landing a solid kick to his back. It's not worthless if used correctly. It's all about knowing your limits and pushing just to the edge of them. Their battle continued, Goku maintaining the Kaioken strain while Vegeta fought, who became more intense as the fight went on. They were 3 months into their year in the chamber, and the prince had begun to notice a disturbing trend. Despite starting with a significant power advantage, Vegeta found the gap between them narrowing with each Senkai boost. Kakarot, a low-class warrior by birth, was growing in power at the rate of a super elite, no faster. It defied everything Vegeta had believed about Saiyang hierarchy. It challenged who he literally was. As they fought, these thoughts distracted him just enough for Goku to find an opening. A combination. Elbow strike to the temple, knee to the solar plexus, finishing with an overhead smash, left Vegeta crumpled on the ground, consciousness fading, nearing death. "Senzu," Goku said, dropping his Kaioken aura and holding out the healing beam. Vegeta took it with shaking fingers, the familiar warmth of healing spreading through his broken body. As strength returned, so did his clarity of thought. Rising to his feet, he stared at Goku. The class system that had defined Saiyang society, the very system that had placed him at the pinnacle and Kakarot at the bottom, was meaningless here. Their Zenkai boosts weren't constrained by birth status. Their potential wasn't predetermined by the circumstances of their hatching. What, then, made a Saiyang great? What made him great? If not birth, then what? "Your form needs work," Vegeta said abruptly, breaking his uncharacteristic silence. "When you use the Kaioken, you waste energy on unnecessary movements, probably because of the pain. You don't normally do it when not using that blasted technique." Goku blinked in surprise. "Really? I hadn't noticed." "Of course you hadn't," Vegeta scoffed, but the usual venom was missing from his tone. "Watch." The prince adopted a stance similar to Goku's Kaioken posture, then made subtle adjustments. "When using it, remember that you need to keep your core tighter, your movements more economical." Goku's face lit up with understanding. "Oh. Yeah, I was taught the same by Master Roshi Hole, eliminating wasted motion." "I don't know what your Earth teacher said," Vegeta replied dismissively, "but yes, that. Saiyang elite warriors also learn to maximize power output while minimizing energy expenditure. That is what bestowed me notice." When night came, as they ate their evening meal, Goku broke the silence. "Hey, Vegeta, thanks for the help today. I was able to fix the issue." Vegeta grunted non-committally, focusing on his food. "You know," Goku continued, undeterred by the prince's lack of response, "you're a really good teacher when you want to be." This drew Vegeta's attention. "What nonsense are you spouting now?" "I'm serious. You explain things clearly, demonstrated the proper form, that's good teaching." Vegeta stared at him for a long moment, then shook his head. "If I'm going to die fighting Cooler, I'd prefer not to do it because my only ally was too incompetent to use his techniques properly." Goku grinned, recognizing the backhanded compliment hidden within the insult. "Fair enough. By the way, I've been meaning to ask, what were Saiyang meals like?" You mentioned meat and root vegetables before, but what about special occasions? Did Seiya celebrate anything? The abrupt change of subject caught Vegeta off guard. He set down his utensils, expression distant as memory surfaced. The festival of the full moon, he said finally. Once a year, when planet Vegeta's 3 moons aligned, all Saiyans would gather. We'd transform into our great ape forms together, hunt massive beasts that normally would be too dangerous to approach for the lower class. I was still only a child when I was still there, so I only experienced it twice. His voice took on an unusual quality, almost wistful. Afterward, there would be feasting. Entire animals roasted over fire pits, their blood mixed with fermented beverages. Warriors would tell tales of conquest, middle-class children would listen and dream of their own future battles. Goku listened, fascinated. That sounds intense. It was, Vegeta agreed. The only time social distinctions blurred somewhat. In great ape form, with our primal instincts heightened, class mattered less than strength and hunting skill. He fell silent, perhaps realizing he'd shared more than intended. I may hate what the Saiyans were doing, I don't want to be connected to any of it, it's why I don't like being called one, but I kind wish I could remember some of it, you know, Goku said softly. Even just a little. Vegeta studied him for a long moment. You're more Saiyang than I initially gave you credit for, Kakarot. Your instincts in battle. They're pure Saiyang, even if your technique is influenced by your Earth training. Coming from Vegeta, this was high praise indeed. Goku smiled, but said nothing. By the 6-month mark, their progress was undeniable. Vegeta's power level had reached approximately 10 million, while Goku wasn't far behind at 7 million. Their bodies had adapted to the harsh conditions of the chamber. The fluctuating gravity, the extreme temperature shifts, the thin air, they didn't even need to use the gravity chamber Bulma gave, since the deeper they went in the chamber, the higher the gravity became anyway, but to Goku the thought of course counted. Bulma was one of his best friends of a sister really, that's what Krillin once described her as to him. He didn't really know how true that was, since he never had one, and Raditz wasn't really a brother one could speak of. But their supply of Senzu beans was running dangerously low. Of the original 34, only 12 remained. We need to change our approach, Goku suggested as they sat reviewing their remaining resources. At this rate, we'll run out of beans with months to spare. Vegeta nodded reluctantly. What do you propose? Let's focus more on technique than raw power for a while. We're already many times stronger than we were when we entered. Now we need to learn to use that power efficiently. The prince considered this, fingers drumming against the table. There's merit in your suggestion. Cooler will possibly have experience that we lack, who knows how his training really was. If we can't overpower him, we'll need to outsmart him. Exactly. Goku agreed enthusiastically. Plus, if we develop better techniques, we might be able to hurt him more with the same amount of power. You know, how some techniques are more powerful than us, like my Kamehameha and your Gallic gun. Vegeta's lips curled into a predatory smile. I may have some ideas in that regard. There are Saiyang combat techniques that I never bothered to master before, they seemed unnecessary when raw power was sufficient. And I can teach you some of the techniques I learned from King Kai, Goku offered. Not the Kaioken, but other stuff. Their training shifted focus. Instead of brutal battles ending in states approaching near death, they engaged in more controlled sparring sessions designed to refine their techniques and develop new ones. Vegeta proved to be a quick study, adapting the Kaioken principles, though not taught how to do it, but was told what the essence of it was, to create his inferior variation, one that sacrificed the technique's raw multiplier for better sustainability. He couldn't match Goku's power boost, but he enhanced himself somewhat and could maintain it for much longer periods. Goku, meanwhile, absorbed Vegeta's own experience with ki usage and the creation of one's own ki attacks. His Gallic gun, though needing longer charge, was one with a mightier multiplier than the Kamehameha's 2.2x. They also began developing combination attacks, recognizing that they might need to work together against Cooler. If I create an opening with the solar flare, Goku demonstrated, temporarily blinding Vegeta with the technique, you could follow up with your Gallic gun before he can recover. Vegeta, blinking away the spots in his vision, nodded thoughtfully. And if I distract him with multiple energy attacks from different angles, you could use the Kaioken at a higher multiplier for an instant to get behind him and apply a full power strike. These theoretical scenarios gradually evolved into practiced routines, their movements and the working together becoming better as time went on. One evening, after a particularly productive day of training, they sat outside the living quarters, gazing into the endless white void. The chamber's artificial day and night cycle had entered its night phase, dimming the omnipresent light to a soft glow. "Hey," Goku asked eventually. "If Frieza hadn't destroyed planet Vegeta, what would your life have been like? Would you have been the same?" "I know Toji said you would, but well, you know you best." Vegeta's expression darkened. After a long moment of silence he spoke. "I would have eventually challenged my father for the throne. It is the Saiyang way, the son must surpass and replace the father to prove the strength of the bloodline." "Would you have been a good king?" Goku wondered aloud. "I would have been a strong king," Vegeta replied immediately. "Under my rule, the Saiyang Empire would have expanded beyond even Frieza's territories. We would have been the dominant force in the universe, feared by all." "But would your people have been happy?" The question caught Vegeta off guard. "Happy," he repeated, as if the concept was foreign to him. "Saiyans don't concern themselves with happiness. We seek battle, conquest, the thrill of overcoming powerful opponents. In providing those opportunities, I would have given my people all they needed." Goku nodded, accepting this answer without judgment. "I guess that makes sense for Saiyans. Earth people are different, though. They want peace, safety, time with their families." "Weak priorities," Vegeta scoffed, but there was less conviction in his tone than usual. "I don't know about that," Goku replied thoughtfully. "It takes different kinds of strength to build things than to destroy them. My grandpa Gohan wasn't a warrior like us, but he was the strongest person I knew in many ways." Vegeta made a dismissive sound, but he appeared to be considering Goku's words. After a long silence, he spoke again, his voice uncharacteristically reflective. "Do you think we can win, Kakarot? Against Cooler?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. It was the first time Vegeta had expressed any doubt about their chances. "I don't know," Goku answered honestly. "But I do know we'll give everything we have. And sometimes, that's enough to change the odds." Vegeta nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the distance. "We are not like them," he said quietly. "Like who?" "Toji," Vegeta clarified, his expression complex. "Or Frieza. Those two, they're freaks of nature. Born with power beyond comprehension, beyond any natural limit." Goku tilted his head, considering this. "Yeah, they're definitely in a league of their own. But does that matter? We're still getting stronger every day." "It matters," Vegeta insisted, "because it defines what's possible for us. I used to believe." He paused, seeming to struggle with the admission. "I used to believe that with enough training, enough battles, I could become the legendary Super Saiyang. That I could achieve that mythical transformation through sheer will and determination." He laughed bitterly. "But seeing Toji, seeing what true abnormal power looks like, I understand now. The legendary Super Saiyang isn't just a powerful Saiyang. It's a being like him, someone born with power that defies all natural laws." "You don't know that," Goku argued. "I may not know much about besides that one time you talked about it, but the legend could mean something else entirely." Vegeta shook his head. "The legend speaks of a warrior whose power is without limit, ever-growing, terrifying, invincible, a true god, a messiah who appears once every 1,000 years to reshape the destiny of our people were it to ever be weak, to guide us once more towards strength." That's not us, Kakarot. We have limits. We can push them, expand them, but they exist. Goku frowned, unused to seeing Vegeta so fatalistic. Maybe. But we can still make a difference. We can still fight. Yes, Vegeta agreed, a spark returning to his eyes. We can still fight. And if we die as warriors should, facing an enemy that requires our absolute best to defeat. The conversation ended there, but it lingered. Both Saiyans returned to their training the next day with renewed determination, pushing themselves harder than ever before. The final 3 months in the chamber saw their power levels rise to heights neither had believed possible when they first entered. Their remaining Senzu beams were used strategically, each near-death experience carefully calculated to maximize their Zenkai boosts. Between these power-increasing sessions, they continued refining their techniques and combination attacks. Goku mastered the Kaioken to new levels, achieving a stable ×20 multiplier that he could maintain for several minutes without damaging his body. Vegeta, meanwhile, developed variations of his Gallic gun that could be fired rapidly in succession or charged for devastating single strikes. Together, they created a repertoire of combination attacks designed specifically to overwhelm a superior opponent, feints, distractions, and synchronized strikes that could potentially catch even Cooler off guard. As their final day in the chamber approached, they used their last Senzu beans for one final power boost. The results were beyond what either had imagined possible. Vegeta's power level had reached approximately 79 million, above half of Frieza's original maximum in her final form. Goku wasn't far behind at 49 million, and his mastery of the Kaioken could potentially multiply that 20 times over 4. On their last morning in the chamber, they stood before the door that would return them to the outside world, where only a day had passed. Both had changed dramatically from the warriors who had entered a year ago. Their bodies were larger, more defined, bearing the scars of countless battles. Their key signatures had transformed, becoming deeper and more refined. But the most significant changes were less visible. A mutual respect had developed between them. Not friendship in the conventional sense, but something at least like it. They had seen each other at their weakest and their strongest, had pushed each other beyond what either thought possible. We should change again, Goku suggested, gesturing to their tattered training clothes. We've used these ones for the past week. Bulma had packed various replacements for them, her father having even replicated the material Vegeta's armor was made of. Vegeta nodded in agreement. They retrieved the capsules, finding not only Earth clothes but replicas of Vegeta's Saiyang armor as well. I may not have said this before, but your woman is really as thorough, Vegeta remarked as he put on the armor, which was identical to his original. Bulma's not my woman, Goku corrected with a laugh. She's just a really good friend, almost like a sister. And yeah, she thinks of everything. They changed in silence, Vegeta donning his familiar blue bodysuit and white armor, Goku opting for a fresh orange GI with King Kai's symbol on the back. As they prepared to exit, Vegeta suddenly spoke. Kakarot. Goku turned, eyebrows raised in question. Whatever happens out there, Vegeta said, his expression solemn, you've proven yourself a worthy Saiyang warrior. Coming from Vegeta, this was the highest praise imaginable. Goku smiled. Thanks, Vegeta. That means a lot coming from you. The prince nodded once. Let's go. We have a demon to kill. Goku laughed his characteristic laugh, hee hee hee. Let's hope this one is easier than the last demon I killed when I was a kid. You killed a demon? Vegeta questioned with a raised eyebrow. Yeah, and it wasn't just any demon, but a demon king. He was really huge compared to me as a kid. He was Piccolo's dad. Goku said as he spread his arms wide, as if to signify how tall and big King Piccolo was. Vegeta scoffed as they went to the door. Please, that Namek is no demon. He's just green. Cooler is a whole other ballpark, he's a real demon. Maybe, but we'll kill him too. We trained a whole year for that after all. With that, they stepped through the door, returning to a world where only 24 hours had passed, but where they had experienced a lifetime of growth together. The light from the lookout's exterior momentarily blinded them after a year in the chamber's artificial illumination, causing them to raise their hands to cover their eyes. As their eyes eventually adjusted, they saw the familiar figures of their friends and allies gathered before them. Piccolo, Gohan, Krillin, Nappa, Bulma, all staring in shock at the transformed warriors who emerged from the chamber. "Dad!" Gohan whispered, barely recognizing the hardened fighter before him. Krillin's jaw had dropped open. "Their power, it's unbelievable." Even Piccolo seemed stunned, his normally stoic expression giving way to wide-eyed disbelief. Vegeta smirked, crossing his arms over his chest. "Close your mouths. You look like gaping fish." "It worked," Bulma breathed, seeing their changes. The hyperbolic time chamber actually worked. "I know you all said it would, but a year in a day was still kinda crazy to think about." Goku smiled, ruffling his son's hair affectionately. "Yep. We're a lot stronger now. But more importantly," he glanced at Vegeta, a silent understanding passing between them. "We're ready." Nappa approached cautiously, his scouter beeping frantically as it tried to measure their power levels. "Prince Vegeta, your power, it's beyond anything I've ever sensed." Vegeta knew that wasn't true. TOJI, Frieza and Cooler existed, but he chalked it up to Nappa not counting them as he should. "Those three are simply abominations." "Of course it is," Vegeta replied, but the usual arrogance in his tone was tempered by something else, a quiet confidence that needed no boasting to affirm itself. "What's the situation?" Goku asked, his expression turning serious. "How long until Cooler arrives?" "Less than 2 days now," Piccolo answered, recovering from his initial shock. "We've been preparing as best we can, but—" He gestured helplessly. Their efforts paled in comparison to what Goku and Vegeta had achieved. 2 days, Vegeta repeated, his eyes narrowing. "Good. Just enough time to rest and prepare our strategy." As the group moved toward the main building of the lookout to discuss their plans, Bulma fell into step beside Goku. "You've changed," she observed quietly. "Both of you have. And I don't just mean your power levels." Goku glanced at Vegeta, who was walking ahead with Nappa, giving curt instructions to his former subordinate. "Yeah," Goku agreed with a small smile. "I guess we have." And so the countdown began. In 2 days the mightiest demon, save the slumbering and the chained devils, in the universe will arrive, and the true challenge will begin. All they could do was hope. For that is what is left when all is lost. The first rays of dawn crept through the window of the Sun household, painting soft golden patterns across the bedroom floor. Goku's eyes opened slowly, his mind immediately clear despite having just awoken. Today was the day. He carefully extricated himself from Kaikai's embrace, her sleeping form curled against him. The warmth of her naked body against his own made leaving the bed all the more difficult, but he knew what awaited them. What awaited Earth? Silently, he rose and began to dress. First, his blue undershirt, smoothing it over his battle-hardened torso. Then the orange GI pants, tightening the drawstring with practiced movements. The orange top followed, the familiar weight settling on his shoulders like armor. He wrapped his blue wristbands around his forearms, then bent to secure his blue boots. As he tied his belt around his waist, he heard the rustle of sheets behind him. Kaikai had awakened. "Goku!" Her voice was soft, vulnerable in a way only he ever heard. He turned to see her sitting up, the white sheet clutched to her chest, her long black hair cascading freely around her shoulders. The sight made his heart ache. "I didn't mean to wake you," he said quietly. Kaikai slipped from the bed, wrapping the sheet around herself as she padded across the floor. She moved behind him, encircling his waist with her arms, pressing her cheek against his back. "Promise me," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "Promise me you'll come back." Goku closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of her against him. Kai, I know I don't understand completely what you're facing. I know it's worse than anything before. Her arms tightened around him. But I need you to promise. For me. For Gohan. He, after a long moment of silence, turned within her embrace, gently grasping her shoulders as he looked into her eyes. The usual sternness had melted away, leaving only love and fear. I promise I'll win, he said softly. For us. He leaned forward, pressing his lips to hers in a kiss. When they parted, he tenderly brushed a strand of hair from her face, his thumb caressing her cheek. His senses extended beyond the room, picking up the fluctuating key signature from down the hall. Gohan was awake, his energy pulsing with a mixture of fear, worry, and determination. I need to talk to him, Goku said, his eyes flicking toward the wall separating them from their son's room. Kai nodded, understanding. Goku moved down the hallway, knocking softly on Gohan's door before entering. The boy was already dressed in his purple gi, a mirror of Piccolo's outfit with its red wristbands and blue sash. He stood by the window, looking out at the morning sky. Dad, Gohan said, turning to face him. Cooler's almost here. We shouldn't waste any time. Something in Goku's expression made Gohan pause. The usual carefree demeanor was gone, replaced by a seriousness that Gohan rarely saw. Sit down, son, Goku said, gesturing to the bed. But Dad Goku raised his hand, palm forward, silencing Gohan's protest. The boy reluctantly sat on the edge of his bed, and Goku settled beside him. For a long moment, neither spoke. The ticking of Gohan's study clock seemed unnaturally loud in the silence. Gohan, Goku finally said, his voice steady. You won't be coming with us to battle. What? But Dad listen to me, Goku continued, his tone leaving no room for argument. You need to take care of your mother. If Vegeta and I fail, if we lose against Cooler, you'll need to be the one to stop him when you're older. Gohan's eyes widened. What are you saying? Everyone's been talking with Bulma. She's prepared a spaceship, for your mom, for herself, Dr. Brief, Panchi, the Namekians, Krillin, Nappa, everyone. Goku's gaze was steady, unflinching. If we lose, you, with your potential, need to grow up, train, and eventually defeat Cooler. With the Namekian Dragon Balls, you can bring everyone back someday. Dad, Gohan's voice faltered, his face contorted with disbelief. I can't do that. I'm not as strong as you. Goku smiled gently, placing his hands on the back of Gohan's head. He leaned forward, bringing their foreheads together. You can be stronger than all of us, Gohan, he said softly. Your potential is greater than mine, than Vegeta's, than anyone's. I believe in you. I've always believed in you. Their foreheads pressed together, father and son connected in a moment of absolute truth. I hate having to put this burden on you, Goku continued, his voice barely above a whisper. But you're our only hope if things go wrong. There's no one I trust more than my own son. Gohan remained speechless, overwhelmed by his father's words. After a long moment, he asked, What about Mr. TOJI? He's the strongest of all of us. Couldn't he stop Cooler? Goku's expression turned somber. Yes, TOJI could defeat Cooler if he comes back. But we don't know what's going on with him, son. If he and Frieza kill each other, and if Vegeta and I fall against Cooler, someone needs to be ready. After a while, a long silence, determination slowly replaced the fear in Gohan's eyes. He nodded against his father's forehead. I'll do it, Dad. You can trust me. Goku pulled back, ruffling Gohan's hair with a proud smile. Of course I can. You're my son, one I'm very proud of. Neither noticed Kai standing in the doorway, still wrapped in her sheet, tears streaming silently down her face. Her smile was bittersweet, joy at the bond between father and son, terror at what the day might bring. The wasteland stretched in all directions, barren and desolate, the same place where the Saiyans had first arrived on Earth. Goku and Vegeta stood side by side, their expressions grim as they awaited their opponent. "You remember the plan?" Vegeta asked, his arms crossed over his chest. "Of course," Goku replied. "We need to create a key cloud big enough to cover the entire solar system and beyond, and all that, right? That way, the spaceship can escape without being sensed by Cooler, if he can sense Ki, to that peaceful planet the Namekians mentioned." Vegeta nodded, satisfaction evident in his eyes. Their year together in a hyperbolic time chamber had forged an understanding between them that neither would have thought possible before. "Then let's begin," the prince said, uncrossing his arms. They stood several feet apart, both clenching their fists at their sides. In perfect synchronization, they began to power up. The ground beneath them cracked as their auras flared to life, Goku's a brilliant white, Vegeta's a royal blue. Rocks levitated around them, disintegrating into dust as their power continued to rise. "H-A-A-A-A-A," they roared in unison, their voices echoing across the wasteland. The earth quaked violently, fissures spreading outward from their position like spiderwebs. Their auras expanded, merging into a massive energy field that pulsed with raw power. Suddenly, the sky darkened as if night had fallen prematurely. The clouds above swirled into an ominous vortex, and a red light descended from the heavens. It stopped in the darkened sky above them, shrouded by clouds. Two glowing crimson eyes peered down at them, unblinking. The winds picked up, dispersing the clouds to reveal their adversary in all his terrible glory. Cooler hovered above them, his fifth form sleek and deadly, biogems glinting in the strange red light that seemed to emanate from his very being. "I see that I have been expected," Cooler said, his voice carrying easily to them despite the distance. "Good, that should make things simpler." The wasteland stretched endlessly in all directions, barren earth and jagged rock formations the only witnesses to what was about to unfold. Above this desolate landscape, Cooler hovered like an angel of death, his fifth form silhouetted against the unnaturally darkened sky. His biogems glinted, casting an eerie crimson light across the battlefield below. Goku and Vegeta stood shoulder to shoulder, their merged auras creating a massive energy field that pulsed with raw power. The ground beneath them continued to crack and splinter, fissures spreading outward like the roots of some great, invisible tree. Their faces were set in grim determination, eyes locked on the hovering figure above. So, Cooler's voice carried effortlessly across the distance, smooth and cultured despite the menace it held. "Earth. What a quaint little mudball. I can see why my sister was interested in it." His tail swished lazily behind him as he descended, each movement deliberate and graceful. "Speaking of my dear sister, I can no longer sense her power. It seems that aberration you call TOJI has defeated her." A cold smile played across his lips. "Or perhaps they've killed each other. Either way, it simplifies matters. We don't care about your family drama," Vegeta called out, his voice carrying the weight of a year's worth of preparation. "You've made a mistake coming here." Cooler's laughter echoed across the wasteland, sending chills down the spines of any creature unfortunate enough to be within earshot. "A mistake? Oh, you poor, deluded monkey." He touched down on the ground with impossible lightness, not disturbing a single pebble. "I came for the Dragon Balls, but now that I'm here, I think I'll enjoy myself first." His crimson eyes narrowed as he studied the two Saiyans. "You've both grown stronger since Namek." "Significantly so." "How interesting." Goku stepped forward, his usually friendly face hardened. "You don't have to do this, Cooler. You could just leave. Find another way to get what you want." "Leave?" Cooler's voice dripped with mock offense. "When I've traveled so far. When I've spent 3 days flying towards here thinking of all the delightful ways I might torture information from you Earthlings." He shook his head. "No, I don't think I will. In a blur, Cooler suddenly appeared directly between Goku and Vegeta, his back to one, facing the other. Neither Saiyang had registered his movement. Besides, he whispered, his breath cold against Vegeta's ear, I've always wanted to have my way with my sister's toys at least once. Vegeta's eyes widened in shock, but before he could react, Cooler's elbow slammed into his spine, sending him flying forward. Simultaneously, his tail whipped backward, catching Goku across the chest with enough force to crack ribs. Both Saiyans recovered mid-air, flipping to land on their feet several yards away, facing Cooler from opposite sides. Now then, Cooler said pleasantly, as if they were discussing dinner plans, shall we begin? Goku and Vegeta exchanged a quick glance, a year's worth of training turning into a single, unspoken plan. They charged simultaneously, approaching from different angles. Cooler stood motionless, arms crossed, watching their approach with the casual interest of someone observing insects. As they closed in, he uncrossed his arms in a sudden, violent motion, creating a shockwave that momentarily disrupted their charge. That split second was all he needed. Cooler caught Vegeta's fist in one hand, squeezing until the Saiyang Prince's knuckles cracked. With his other hand, he blocked Goku's kick, the impact creating a thunderous boom that echoed across the wasteland. Is this truly the best you can offer? Cooler asked, sounding genuinely disappointed. Knowing you were the subjects of that abomination, I expected more. Vegeta snarled, twisting his body to deliver a kick to Cooler's head. Simultaneously, Goku dropped low, sweeping at Cooler's legs. The coordinated attack forced the Frost Demon to release them both, leaping backward to avoid the strikes. Ah, Cooler's eyes gleamed with new interest. You know how to work together. How quaint. Goku and Vegeta pressed their advantage, falling into a rhythm they perfected during their year in the hyperbolic time chamber. Vegeta attacked high, Goku attacked low. When Cooler focused on one, the other would strike from his blind spot. Their movements were fluid, complementary, a deadly dance they'd rehearsed thousands of times. For a brief moment, it seemed to work. Cooler was forced to block and dodge, unable to counter effectively against their assault. Then, as if bored with the exercise, Cooler's aura flared. A wave of purple energy erupted from his body, throwing both Saiyans backward. Enough warm-up, he declared, cracking his neck casually. Let me explain something to you both. He vanished, reappearing behind Vegeta. Before the prince could react, Cooler's tail wrapped around his throat, lifting him off the ground. Only a god can fight another god, Cooler whispered, his voice carrying despite its softness. Your god, that human aberration, is absent. Me, however. He squeezed tighter, making Vegeta gasp for air. I am very much present. Goku charged forward, but Cooler merely raised his free hand, catching Goku's face in his palm and stopping him mid-attack. Look at you, Cooler continued, his voice almost gentle. So much effort. So much determination. And for what? To be swatted aside like the insects you are. He released them both with a dismissive gesture, watching as they tumbled across the rocky ground. Vegeta was the first to recover, wiping blood from his mouth. You talk too much, he spat. Just like your sister. All words, no substance. A flicker of annoyance crossed Cooler's face. Careful, Prince. You're treading on dangerous ground. Am I? Vegeta's lips curled into a smirk. Frieza always did the same, hiding her insecurities behind grand speeches and posturing. Tell me, was it difficult growing up in her shadow? Always second best despite being the elder. The taunt hit home. Cooler's eye twitched, his composed demeanor cracking slightly. Goku, understanding Vegeta's strategy, joined in. Yeah, must have been tough. From what I hear, Frieza was born stronger than you. Had to work hard just to catch up, huh? Cooler's tail lashed angrily behind him. You know nothing, he hissed, his cultured tone slipping. We know enough, Vegeta pressed, circling slowly to Cooler's right as Goku moved left. The second-rate son. The overlooked heir. Always trying to prove yourself, always falling short. They were deliberately provoking him, trying to break his concentration, his resolve. It was a psychological tactic they discussed during their training. If raw power couldn't win, perhaps they could go at their opponent into making mistakes. Focus was one of the three fundamentals of the power of Ki. Break it, you weaken the enemy severely. Cooler recognized the strategy immediately. His momentary anger faded, replaced by cold amusement. I see, he said, composure returning. You think to manipulate me with childish taunts. He chuckled softly. Very well. I'll play your game. Without warning, he appeared before Vegeta, flicking him away with his tail as one might dismiss a bothersome fly. The prince crashed through a nearby rock formation, disappearing in a cloud of dust and debris. Before Goku could react, Cooler was behind him. The Frost Demon grabbed the back of Goku's GI, yanking him backward. With casual cruelty, Cooler delivered a series of open-handed and backhanded slaps to Goku's face, each impact echoing like a thunderclap. Is this humiliating enough? Cooler asked conversationally. Or perhaps you'd prefer something more creative? He spun Goku around and bent him over his knee, delivering a series of spanking blows to his backside. Bad monkey, he taunted between strikes. Naughty, naughty monkey. Goku roared in rage and humiliation, his aura flaring as he broke free of Cooler's grip. He flipped away, landing in a defensive stance, his face burning with both pain and shame. You'll pay for that, Goku growled, his usual good nature nowhere to be seen. Vegeta emerged from the rubble, his armor cracked but his pride wounded far more deeply. Enough games, he snarled. It's time we showed you what we're truly capable of. Goku nodded, his expression hardening. Ready, Vegeta? Always, Kakarot. Goku braced himself, muscles tensing as he gathered his ki. Kaioken. Times 10, he roared. Crimson energy erupted around him, enveloping his form in a blazing red aura. The ground beneath his feet cracked further, rocks rising into the air around him as if gravity itself had been suspended. His power level skyrocketed, the sheer force of it creating wind currents that whipped across the wasteland. Beside him, Vegeta assumed a wide stance, fists clenched at his sides. Royal blue, he bellowed. Dark blue energy surged around the prince, his aura deepening to a shade reminiscent of the royal house of Vegeta. Though not as dramatic as Goku's transformation, the change was significant. His muscles expanded slightly, veins bulging beneath his skin as his power increased by half again its base level. Vegeta's, unlike Goku's, was a mere 1.5x multiplier, it being the limit of it as well. Cooler observed both transformations with mild interest. How colorful, he remarked. The Monkey Prince and his crimson companion. Is this meant to impress me? His casual dismissal was interrupted as both Sairs vanished, reappearing directly before him. Their synchronized punches caught him off guard, connecting solidly with his chest and sending him skidding backward. For the first time, surprise registered on Cooler's face. He barely had time to raise his arms in defense before they were upon him again, their enhanced speed and power forcing him to take them seriously. Goku's Kaioken enhanced strikes hit like meteors, each impact creating shockwaves that rippled through the air. Vegeta's royal form gave him more precision and a more sustained power, allowing him to target vulnerable points in Cooler's defenses. Goku brought the power, and Vegeta brought the openings for Goku's blows. Working in perfect tandem, they drove Cooler back, their assault leaving no openings for counterattack. When Goku attacked high, Vegeta struck low. When Cooler focused on blocking Vegeta, Goku would appear in his blind spot. A particularly devastating combination, Goku's roundhouse kick followed immediately by Vegeta's uppercut, sent Cooler flying upward. The Frost Demon crashed through several rock formations before regaining control of his flight. For the first time, Cooler's breath came slightly faster than normal. He touched his lip, finding a small trickle of purple blood where Goku's kick had connected. "Well," he said, his voice carrying a new edge. "It seems I underestimated you both. A mistake I won't repeat." With that, Cooler's aura flared to life, a deep, malevolent purple that darkened the sky further. The very air seemed to vibrate with his power as he ascended to 70% of his maximum. "Now," he said, his voice echoing with new depth, "let's continue our dance." He vanished, reappearing between the stairs faster than either could track. His elbow caught Vegeta in the temple while his tail whipped around to strike Goku's midsection. Both warriors were sent flying in opposite directions, crashing through rock formations. Goku recovered first, his Kaioken aura flickering as he pushed it higher. Kaioken times 15. He shouted, the crimson energy intensifying around him. Sweat beaded on his forehead, veins bulging at his temples as he strained against the technique's limitations. At 15 times his base power, the Kaioken threatened to tear his body apart from within, but he had no choice. Vegeta rejoined him, his royal form holding steady. "We need to hit him harder," the prince growled. Together, they charged again, moving even faster than before. The landscape blurred around them as they engaged Cooler, their combined might forcing the Frost Demon to exert himself. For several minutes, the battle raged across the wasteland. Mountains crumbled under the force of mist attacks. Canyons formed where energy blasts struck the earth. The very air seemed to catch fire when their auras clashed. But despite their increased power, the tide was turning against them. Cooler's superior strength and stamina began to tell, his attacks landing with increasing frequency while their own missed more often. A particularly vicious combination sent both Sairs crashing to the ground, creating twin impact craters in the hard earth. They struggled to their feet, breathing heavily, their enhanced auras flickering. "We need another approach," Goku panted, blood trickling from a cut above his eye. Vegeta nodded grimly, his royal form wavering as fatigue set in. "I have one more trick," he said, "cover me." Goku understood immediately. He charged forward, engaging Cooler directly while Vegeta prepared his technique. "Back for more." Cooler taunted, easily blocking Goku's increasingly desperate attacks. "Your persistence would be admirable if it weren't so futile." Goku said nothing, focusing all his energy on keeping Cooler distracted. His Kaioken aura flared erratically as he pushed beyond his limits, each strike costing him more than the last. Behind him, Vegeta raised the white ki sphere skyward. "Burst open and mix," he commanded. The ki sphere shot upward, expanding rapidly until it hung in the sky like an artificial moon. Its surface swirled with energy, emitting the specialized Blutz waves needed for the Saiyang transformation. Cooler, noticing the sudden light, glanced upward. "What's this?" he asked, momentarily distracted. "A desperate light show?" "Something like that," Goku replied with a grim smile, backing away to give Vegeta space. The prince stood beneath the artificial moon, his eyes locked on its swirling surface. The Blutz waves washed over him, triggering the ancient Saiyang transformation encoded in his DNA. Vegeta's body began to change. His muscles bulged, his frame expanding rapidly. Thick brown fur erupted across his skin as his face elongated into a bestial snout filled with razor-sharp teeth. His eyes glowed red with primal fury as he grew, and grew, and grew, until he towered above the battlefield, a massive great ape standing 50 feet tall. The transformation complete, Great Ape Vegeta threw his head back and roared. The sound shook the wasteland, sending birds scattering from distant trees. His royal form's blue aura remained, now enveloping his massive simian body and amplifying his power tenfold. "Impressive," Cooler acknowledged, genuine interest in his voice. "I've heard of this transformation but never witnessed it firsthand. My sister mentioned it was uncontrolled." "Bestial." Great Ape Vegeta's mouth pulled back in what might have been a smile. When he spoke, his voice was deeper, more guttural, but still recognizably his own. That's where she was wrong. A true elite maintains control, even in this form. Without warning, the massive ape lunged forward with surprising speed for his size. His enormous fist swung at Cooler, who dodged, but barely. The wind pressure alone from the near miss sent the frost demon tumbling through the air. Goku, seeing his opportunity, pushed his Kaioken to its absolute limit. Kaioken! Times 20 TWO, he screamed, his body erupting with crimson energy so intense it appeared to set the air itself ablaze. The strain was immense. Blood vessels burst beneath his skin, creating a web of red lines across his body. Every muscle fiber threatened to tear apart. But the power, the raw, unbridled power, was worth the cost. Together, they pressed their advantage. Great Ape Vegeta's massive fists created shockwaves with each swing, limiting Cooler's mobility. When the Frost Demon dodged upward, Goku was there, his Kaioken enhanced speed allowing him to intercept an attack. For the first time, Cooler was forced to exert himself fully. His movements became more urgent, his expression hardening as he realized these monkeys might actually pose a threat. A massive fist caught him off guard, sending him crashing into a mountain with enough force to reduce it to rubble. Before he could recover, Goku appeared above him, hands cupped at his side. K. Me. Ha. Me. Blue energy gathered between his palms, swirling and condensing into a sphere of devastating power. Ha. The beam erupted from Goku's hands, engulfing Cooler completely. The resulting explosion lit up the darkened sky, temporarily turning night to day. As the light faded and the dust settled, both Saiyans watched intently for any sign of their opponent. A slow, mocking applause broke the silence. Cooler emerged from the crater, his bio-armor cracked in several places but otherwise intact. Purple blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, which was curved in a sardonic smile. "Bravo," he said, his voice still steady despite the damage he'd sustained. "You've actually managed to hurt me. That's more than most can claim." Great Ape Vegeta roared in frustration, charging forward again. This time, Cooler was ready. He dodged the massive fist and countered with a concentrated energy beam that struck the ape's shoulder, burning through fur and flesh. Vegeta bellowed in pain but continued his assault, his massive hands trying to clap Cooler between them like an insect. The demon weaved between his fingers, landing strikes at vulnerable joints. Goku rejoined the fray, his Kaioken aura flickering dangerously as he pushed beyond his limits. Together, they managed to keep Cooler on the defensive, but it was clear they were reaching the end of their endurance. Just as the battle seemed to be reaching a stalemate, 3 new power signatures appeared on the horizon. "What now?" Cooler growled, irritated by the interruption. Piccolo, Krillin, and Nappa descended from the sky, landing a short distance from the battlefield. All 3 looked battle-ready, though clearly aware they were outmatched. "What are you doing here?" Goku called out, his voice strained from maintaining the Kaioken. "You were supposed to dash, we couldn't just leave," Krillin interrupted, his expression determined despite the fear evident in his eyes. "Not while you guys were fighting for all of us." "The human imp speaks true," Nappa added, his massive frame tensed for battle. "Says don't flee while others fight their battles." Piccolo said nothing, but his presence spoke volumes. He had removed his weighted clothing, his muscles bulging beneath his green skin as he prepared for combat. Vegeta, still in his great ape form, growled in frustration. "Fools," he rumbled. "But since you're here..." He gestured toward the artificial moon hovering above. "Nappa, join me." The bald Saiyan grinned savagely, his eyes turning upward to the power ball. The Blutz waves triggered his transformation immediately, his body expanding and changing until a second great ape stood beside the first. Cooler observed these developments with growing annoyance. "More insects to crush," he muttered. "Very well. Let's end this farce." The battle resumed with new intensity. The two great apes attacked in tandem, their massive fists creating shockwaves with each swing. Goku, still wreathed in his crimson Kaioken aura, darted between them, striking at any opening he could find. Piccolo and Krillin provided support from a distance, firing energy blasts to distract and harass Cooler whenever possible. For a brief, hopeful moment, it seemed the tide might be turning. The combined assault forced Cooler to exert himself fully, his movements becoming slightly less precise as he defended against attacks from multiple directions. A coordinated strike, Great Ape Vegeta's fist driving Cooler into Great Ape Nappa's waiting grasp, actually managed to trap the Frost Demon momentarily. Now! Vegeta bellowed. Piccolo placed 2 fingers against his forehead, gathering energy for his most powerful technique. Special Beam Cannon, he shouted, releasing a spiraling beam of concentrated energy. Simultaneously, Krillin raised his hand above his head. A flat disk of energy formed, spinning rapidly. Destructo Disc? He cried, hurling it toward the trapped Cooler. The two attacks converged just as Goku appeared above, hands cupped at his side. Kamehameha, he roared, the blue beam joining the others in a tri-beam assault. The combined attack struck Cooler dead-on, creating an explosion that momentarily blinded everyone on the battlefield. The great apes were forced to release their grip, thrown backward by the sheer force of the blast. As the light faded and the dust began to settle, a heavy silence fell over the wasteland. Had they done it? Had they actually defeated the tyrant? A pulse of malevolent energy answered their unspoken question. Cooler stood at the center of a massive crater, his body showing more damage than before. Parts of his bio-armor were cracked or missing entirely, purple blood flowing from several wounds. One eye was swollen shut, and his breathing came in ragged gasps. But he was alive. And he was furious. Enough, he snarled, his cultured voice giving way to raw anger. Enough! His aura exploded around him, purple energy shooting skyward like a volcanic eruption. The ground beneath him disintegrated, the crater expanding rapidly as his power reached its absolute maximum, his current 100%. It was 1.4 billion, tired from fighting TOJI and flying 3 days without rest, instead of the fully rested 1.6. The artificial moon shattered under the pressure of his energy, its fragments dispersing into nothingness. Without the Blutz waves to sustain their transformations, Vegeta and Nappa began to shrink, their great ape forms receding until they stood in their normal bodies once more. Before anyone could react, Cooler vanished. He reappeared behind Piccolo, his hand plunging into the Namekian's back. Piccolo's eyes widened in shock as Cooler's fingers found and severed key nerve clusters, paralyzing him instantly. 1, Cooler counted coldly, allowing Piccolo's limp body to crumple to the ground. He appeared before Nappa next, his movements too fast to track. A series of precise strikes to pressure points left the massive Saiyang immobilized, his muscles spasming uncontrollably. 2, Cooler continued, his voice devoid of emotion. Vegeta, having just reverted to his normal form, tried to reactivate his royal form again. The blue aura flickered around him briefly before Cooler's fist buried itself in his stomach, doubling him over. A chop to the back of the neck sent the prince face first into the dirt. 3, Cooler said, turning his attention to Krillin. The small human stood his ground despite his terror, raising his hands in a defensive stance. Kaioken, he stammered, trying to activate the technique Goku had attempted to teach him during their journey to Namek after gaining King Kai's approval through a joke. A red aura flickered weakly around him for a moment before sputtering out. He simply didn't have the mastery or power level to sustain it. Cooler appeared before him, looking down with something almost like pity. 4, he said softly, flicking Krillin away with his tail. The human crashed into a distant rock formation, his body going limp upon impact. Only Goku remained standing, his Kaioken aura long since faded. Blood trickled from numerous wounds, his GI torn and burned in dozens of places. His breathing came in ragged gasps, each inhalation clearly causing pain. And then there was one, Cooler said, approaching slowly. The last Saiyang standing. How fitting. Goku raised his fists defiantly, though they trembled with exhaustion. It's not over, he declared, his voice hoarse but determined. Oh, but it is, Cooler replied, stopping a few feet away. You fought admirably, I'll grant you that. But surely you see the futility now. The gap between us is simply too great. He raised a finger, a small point of red energy forming at its tip. Now, before I end this charade, you will tell me where to find the Dragon Balls and how to summon the dragon. Do this, and I promise your death will be quick. Goku's response was to spit blood at Cooler's feet. Never, he growled. Cooler sighed, as if disappointed by a child's poor behavior. Very well. The hard way, then. The death beam shot forward, striking Goku in the shoulder. The Saiyan cried out in pain but remained standing. Where are the Dragon Balls? Cooler asked again, his voice mild. Go to hell, Goku replied through gritted teeth. Another death beam, this one piercing his thigh. Goku collapsed to one knee but still glared defiantly up at his tormentor. I can do this all day, Cooler informed him conversationally. There are thousands of non-lethal points on your body where I can inflict maximum pain without killing you. As Cooler prepared another death beam, a weak voice called out from behind him. Krillin! It was Vegeta, barely conscious, his voice barely above a whisper. Blood matted his hair and ran down his face from a deep gash on his forehead. Your disc technique. Krillin, who had regained consciousness but remained unable to move much, looked over in confusion. What? Create it, now. Vegeta hissed, his voice urgent despite its weakness. It's useless, Krillin whispered back, despair evident in his tone. I'm too weak for it to matter, and he's too powerful. I can't close the gap. Shut up and do it, Vegeta growled, his eyes burning with desperate intensity. I'll enhance it. With trembling hands, Krillin began to gather what little energy he had left. A small, flickering disc of ki formed above his palm, its edges jagged and unstable. Vegeta, meanwhile, extended his own hand, pouring his remaining ki into Krillin's technique. The disc stabilized, growing larger and sharper as the prince's energy merged with it. Now we just need an opening, Vegeta muttered, frustration evident in his voice. But there's no way to dash hello? Can everyone hear me? A nasal voice suddenly echoed in their minds, interrupting Vegeta's despair. King Kai? Goku responded mentally, recognizing the deity's voice despite his pain. Yes, it's me, King Kai confirmed. Listen, I can create a distraction, a moment's opening. But you must be ready to strike when it comes. How? Krillin asked, struggling to maintain the enhanced Destructo disc hovering above his palm. Don't ask questions. King Kai snapped, his mental voice uncharacteristically sharp. Just be ready. And whatever you do, don't react to what I'm about to say. Focus on your target. Sheesh, what's his problem? Krillin muttered under his breath, but he focused his attention on Cooler, who was still interrogating Goku. There was a moment of silence, then King Kai's voice returned, now broadcasting to everyone present, including Cooler. Hey, Cooler, the Kai called out. The Frost Demon paused, his death beam half formed at his fingertip. He looked around in confusion, trying to locate the source of the voice. Who dares dash, he began, but King Kai cut him off, taking a deep breath. Okay, here goes nothing. Hope they don't kill me when they know I know, King Kai thought to himself. TOJI is sleeping with your sister. TOJI and Frieza are smashing. The proclamation hung in the air like a physical thing, so outrageous that time itself seemed to stop. For one perfect moment, absolute silence reigned over the battlefield. Cooler's face went through a complex series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, disgust, and finally, utter shock. His jaw dropped open, his death beam dissipating as his concentration shattered completely. "What did you just dash?" he began, but never finished the sentence. Krillin, seizing the moment of distraction, hurled the enhanced Destructo disc with all his remaining strength. The deadly energy disc shot forward, its edge honed by Vegeta's power. At the last possible instant, Cooler sensed the attack. He jerked sideways, avoiding being bisected, but not quickly enough to escape completely. The disc sliced through his left arm at the shoulder, severing it cleanly. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Cooler stared at the empty space where his arm had been, purple blood beginning to fountain from the wound. Then, slowly, his head turned toward Krillin and Vegeta, his face a mask of disbelief that quickly morphed into murderous rage. "You?" he whispered, the single word carrying more hatred than 1,000 curses. Without warning, his remaining hand shot forward, palm outstretched toward the two fallen warriors. A massive ball of crimson energy formed before it, growing rapidly until it dwarfed Cooler himself. "Die!" he roared, releasing the blast. The energy wave surged forward, its heat so intense it melted the very rock it passed over. Krillin and Vegeta, too exhausted to move, could only watch as death approached. In the final moment before impact, a massive shadow fell over them. Nappa, having regained enough control of his limbs to move, had thrown himself in front of the blast. "Young Prince," the bald Sai Yang roared as the energy engulfed him. His massive frame provided only momentary protection. The blast was simply too powerful, too vast. "Farewell, Prince Vegeta, it was an honor taking care of you all this time," were Nappa's last thoughts. It consumed Nappa completely, his silhouette visible for a split second before disintegrating entirely. The wave continued onward, weakened but still deadly. It washed over Krillin, his small body offering no resistance to its fury. His scream was brief, cut short as the energy vaporized him. Vegeta, partially shielded by Nappa's sacrifice, survived, but barely. The blast left him broken and burned, clinging to consciousness by the thinnest of threads. As the light of the attack faded, Cooler surveyed the destruction with cold satisfaction. "Insects," he muttered, clutching the stump of his severed arm. "I should have done that from the beginning. No more games, no more torture. Just death." Goku, having witnessed the obliteration of his childhood friend, remained frozen in shock. "Krillin," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Krillin!" He fell to his knees, pounding the ground with his fists. Each impact cracked the earth further, small fissures spreading outward from his position. "No, no, no!" he screamed, his voice raw with grief. Above them, the sky darkened further. Lightning flashed across the heavens, followed by the ominous rumble of thunder. The very air seemed to thicken, becoming heavy with the promise of violence. "Your turn, Sai Yang," Cooler said, turning toward Goku. "Join your friends in oblivion." But Goku didn't seem to hear him. The Sai Yang remained on his knees, his head bowed, shoulders shaking. Not with fear, Cooler realized after a moment, but with rage, pure, undiluted rage. "You killed him," Goku whispered, his voice changed, deeper, harsher. "You killed Krillin." Memories flashed through Goku's mind, Krillin as a child, training alongside him at Master Rosh's. Krillin fighting in the World Martial Arts Tournament. Krillin standing beside him against Raditz, against the Jinyu Force, against countless threats. Krillin, his first and oldest friend. Gone. Erased from existence. Unable to be brought back with the Dragon Balls so long this demon lived. Something broke inside Goku. "I won't let you get away with this," he growled, his fists clenching so tightly that blood began to seep between his fingers. The ground beneath him cracked further, pieces of rock rising into the air around him as if gravity itself was being distorted by his rage. His hair began to stand on end, flickering between its normal black and something else, something golden. "What's happening?" Cooler demanded, taking an involuntary step backward. Goku slowly rose to his feet, his head still bowed. When he finally looked up, his eyes had changed, teal instead of black, burning with an inner light that promised vengeance. "I will make you pay," he roared, his voice echoing across the wasteland. Ah! With that final cry, Goku's transformation completed. His hair flashed golden, standing upright. His muscles expanded slightly, veins bulging beneath his skin. A golden aura erupted around him, so bright it was painful to look at directly. The Super Saiyan has been born. The golden light emanating from Goku's body cast long shadows across the devastated wasteland. His transformation had completed, leaving him completely changed. His once black hair now stood upright in golden spikes, his eyes had shifted from onyx to teal, burning with an inner light that promised retribution. The golden aura surrounding him pulsed like a heartbeat, sending waves of energy across the battlefield with each throb. Cooler stood frozen, his remaining arm hanging limply at his side as he stared at the transformed Saiyan. For the first time since arriving on Earth, genuine uncertainty flickered across his face. What is this?" he demanded, his cultured voice cracking slightly. "What have you become?" Goku didn't answer immediately. He looked down at his hands, examining them as if seeing them for the first time. Power coursed through his veins like liquid fire, yet his mind remained clear, clearer than it had ever been. Every sense was heightened, every thought crystalline in its precision. "I am Saiyan from Earth, whose home you've invaded," Goku finally replied, his voice deeper, harder than before. "I am the warrior you've heard of in legends." He raised his gaze to meet Cooler's, his teal eyes burning with cold fury. "I am pure of heart and awakened by fury, that's what I am." His aura flared brighter with each proclamation. "I am dash." The ground beneath Goku's feet began to crack, fissures spreading outward like a spider's web. Small rocks rose into the air around him, suspended by the sheer force of his energy. The Super Saiyan. His voice rose, the golden aura expanding further. "Son Goku!" With a roar that shook the very air, Goku thrust his palm forward. A wave of pure ki erupted from his hand. Not a beam or blast, but a wall of force that struck Cooler like a tsunami. The demon, still stunned by the transformation, had no time to defend himself. The impact sent Cooler hurtling backward, his body carving a trench through the earth as he tumbled uncontrollably across the wasteland. He crashed through rock formations, each impact splintering stone before finally embedding into the side of a distant mountain. Goku lowered his hand, his expression grim. His immediate concern wasn't Cooler but his fallen comrades. He turned, scanning the battlefield with his enhanced senses. Piccolo lay face down where Cooler had left him, his body paralyzed but still alive. Not far away, Vegeta's broken form was barely recognizable, his armor shattered, his body covered in severe burns. Moving with a speed that would have been impossible before his transformation, Goku appeared at Piccolo's side. He gently rolled the Namekian over, noting how Cooler has paralyzed him. "Piccolo," he said softly, "can you hear me?" The Namekian's eyes struggled to focus. "Goku? What happened to you?" "I've become what Vegeta always talked about," Goku replied simply, his tone broking no further questions, searching Piccolo's GI. "Where's the Senzu pouch?" With tremendous effort, Piccolo managed to move his eyes toward his belt. "Inner pocket." Goku found the small brown pouch and opened it. 4 beans remained. He took one and gently placed it in Piccolo's mouth. "Chew," he instructed. The Namekian complied, and within moments the healing properties of the bean took effect. Color returned to Piccolo's green skin, and he sat up, flexing his fingers as sensation returned to his limbs. "Your power?" Piccolo began, his eyes wide as he fully registered Goku's transformation. "It's unlike anything I've ever felt from you before." "There's no time," Goku cut him off, already moving toward Vegeta. "Cooler won't stay down for long." The Saiyan Prince lay in a crater of his own making, his breathing shallow and labored. Burns covered most of his visible skin, and his right arm bent at an unnatural angle. Blood pooled beneath him, soaking into the parched earth. Goku knelt beside him, gently cradling Vegeta's head. Despite their year together in the hyperbolic time chamber, he'd never seen the proud prince look so vulnerable, even from the beatings that he himself bestowed him. "Vegeta," he called softly. "Can you hear me?" Vegeta's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first before settling on Goku's transformed visage. To Goku's surprise, a weak laugh escaped the prince's blooded lips. "Kakarot," he rasped, each word clearly causing him pain. "It seems you were right. I didn't understand the legend. But you did." "Don't waste your energy talking," Goku said, reaching for the remaining Senzu bean. "You've done it," Vegeta continued, ignoring the instruction. "You're a Super Saiyan, the savior of our race." His eyes burned with an intensity that belied his broken body. "The legend?" I.e. misunderstood. Goku held the Senzu bean to Vegeta's lips. "Here. Eat this," he interrupted. The prince stopped talking and accepted the bean, chewing it slowly. As the healing began to take effect, his expression shifted from pain to wonder. "All these years," he murmured, sitting up as his wounds closed and bones knitted themselves back together. "I thought becoming a Super Saiyan was my birthright, that royal blood was the key." He flexed his newly healed arm, staring at it as if it belonged to someone else. "But it was never about that, was it? It seems I was wrong my entire life." Piccolo approached, his tall figure casting a shadow over the two Sairs. "We need to move quickly. If Cooler recovers, he won't be a problem anymore," Goku interrupted, standing up. He tucked the Senzu pouch into his belt. "I'll make sure of that." Piccolo's eyes narrowed. "Goku, you're injured. Why aren't you taking a Senzu bean yourself?" "I'll do that later," Goku replied, his voice distant. The golden aura around him pulsed, sending another wave of energy across the battlefield. "But your injuries," Piccolo began to protest. "It's useless," Vegeta interrupted, rising to his feet. "You won't convince Kakarot otherwise." His eyes remained fixed on Goku's transformed state, a mixture of awe and acceptance in his gaze. "Besides, there's no need to worry. Kakarot is now the mightiest being in the universe. He's unstoppable." Something in Vegeta's tone, a note of finality, perhaps, made Piccolo study Goku more carefully. Behind the golden glow and teal eyes, there was something different about the Saiyan's expression. Something harder, colder than the Goku they knew. Goku turned to them, raising a hand in a gesture that seemed almost like farewell. A sad smile crossed his face, there and gone in an instant. Then, with a burst of speed that left a golden afterimage hanging in the air, he vanished. Piccolo and Vegeta stood in silence, watching the golden streak disappear into the distance. "Should we follow him?" Piccolo finally asked. Vegeta shook his head slowly. "No. This is between Kakarot and Cooler now. But Goku isn't himself. Did you see his eyes?" "I saw," Vegeta confirmed grimly. "The legend speaks of this too. The rage. All we can hope is that Kakarot's fate isn't like his ancestor. That his own power doesn't destroy him and all of us with it." Miles away, Cooler was extracting himself from the mountain where Goku's attack had embedded him. Purple blood flowed freely from the stump where his arm had been, and new injuries covered his body. His breathing came in ragged gasps, his once perfect composure shattered. "Impossible," he muttered, spitting out a mouthful of blood. "No Saiyan could possess such power. It defies all logic." A flash of golden light interrupted his thoughts. Goku appeared before him, hovering a few feet off the ground, his aura casting harsh shadows across Cooler's battered form. "Get up," Goku commanded, his voice unnervingly calm. Cooler struggled to his feet, his legs trembling with the effort. "What are you?" he demanded, trying to regain some semblance of dignity. "What is this golden form?" I am a Super Saiyan, Goku replied, repeating his earlier answer, his teal eyes boring into Cooler's red ones. And I am your executioner. Without warning, Goku shot forward, his fist connecting with Cooler's jaw before the Frost Demon could even register the movement. The impact sent Cooler flying backward again, crashing through several rock formations before Goku appeared behind him, delivering a devastating kick to his spine. Cooler howled in pain as he was launched skyward. Goku pursued, appearing above him with hands clasped together, bringing them down in a hammer blow that sent Cooler plummeting back to Earth. The crater from his impact was massive, dust and debris billowing outward like a miniature nuclear explosion. Before the dust could settle, Goku descended into the crater, grabbing Cooler by the throat and lifting him with one hand. How does it feel? Goku asked, his voice eerily controlled despite the fury evident in his eyes. To be completely outmatched? To know your death is inevitable. Cooler struggled against Goku's grip, his remaining hand clawing uselessly at the Saiyan's arm. You think this changes anything? He gasped. You're still just a monkey. A primitive beast playing with power you don't understand. Goku's grip tightened, cutting off Cooler's air supply momentarily before loosening just enough to allow him to breathe. I understand enough. I understand that you killed my friend. That you're responsible for countless deaths across the universe. He threw Cooler aside like trash, watching dispassionately as the demon crashed into another rock formation. And I understand that you're going to pay for every single one of them. Cooler struggled to his feet once more, purple blood streaming from numerous wounds. Despite his injuries, a cold smile spread across his face. Such righteous anger, he taunted. Such moral superiority. Tell me, Super Saiyan, does it make you feel better to pretend your vengeance is justice? Shut up, spare me the moral, Goku snarled, closing the distance between them in an instant. His fist buried itself in Cooler's stomach, doubling the Frost Demon over. You don't get to talk about justice. Cooler coughed, more blood spattering the ground, but his smile remained. Why not? Because I'm evil and you're good? How simplistic. He managed to straighten slightly, looking Goku directly in the eyes. At least I'm honest about what I am. I don't pretend my violence is righteous. Goku's response was another devastating blow, this one to Cooler's face. The Frost Demon's head snapped back, but he continued speaking through broken teeth. Look at yourself, Cooler wheezed. The peaceful warrior I sensed upon arrival, so consumed by rage he can barely think straight. How many will you kill after me, Saiyan? How many lives will you end after this rage consumes you, like it did your primitive predecessor? I need to buy time this monkey, I sensed it, since the moment I arrived on this mud ball. He's too pure, too righteous, and forgiving. It permeated the entire planet when his energy enveloped it. He even offered me leave, and did not wish to fight me. This one is also an abomination like those two, but is one that is a contradiction to what a monkey is, an ape who wouldn't want to hurt even a fly. If I can just buy I said shut you p. Goku roared, interrupted Cooler's thoughts, his golden aura flaring brighter. He unleashed a barrage of punches, each impact creating a shockwave that cracked the very air around them. Cooler's body jerked and twisted under the assault, yet somehow he remained conscious, his red eyes never leaving Goku's face. Does it bother you? Cooler managed between blows. That in your heart, you're enjoying this? That inflicting pain feels good. Goku's fist stopped a millimeter from Cooler's face, trembling with restrained force. You're wrong, he growled, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his teal eyes. Cooler's bloody lips curved into a triumphant smile. Am I? Then why not just kill me? Why draw it out? Why make me suffer? The question hung in the air between them, unanswered. Goku's fist slowly lowered, his expression troubled. Taking advantage of the momentary hesitation, Cooler gathered his remaining strength and launched a surprise attack, a death beam aimed directly at Goku's heart. The red energy streaked toward the Saiyang, who made no move to dodge. The beam struck Goku's chest and dissipated harmlessly, not even singing his GI. Cooler's eyes widened in disbelief. "My turn," Goku said softly. What followed was not a battle but a systematic dismantling. Goku moved, targeting every vulnerable point on Cooler's body. Each strike was calculated to cause maximum pain without knocking the Frost Demon unconscious. Cooler's attempts to fight back were futile. His energy blasts bounced off Goku's aura like raindrops. His physical attacks were intercepted and countered. Even his speed, once his greatest advantage, was now meaningless against Goku's enhanced perception. Throughout the one-sided battle, Goku remained eerily silent. The only sounds were Cooler's pained grunts and the thunder-like impacts of Goku's fists against the Frost Demon's increasingly battered body. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of punishment, Cooler collapsed to the ground, unable to rise again. His once pristine bioarmor was shattered in dozens of places, purple blood pooling beneath him. His breathing came in ragged gasps, each inhalation clearly causing him agony. Goku stood over him, his golden aura casting harsh shadows across Cooler's broken form. Despite the intensity of the battle, Goku showed few signs of fatigue. His breathing was even, his stance relaxed but alert. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, slowly, deliberately, Goku reached into his GI and pulled out the Senzu bean pouch. He opened it, extracting a bean and holding it up for Cooler to see. "Do you know what this is?" Goku asked, his voice unnervingly calm. Cooler's swollen eyes fixed on the small green bean. "A healing item of some kind, reason," he rasped. "I sensed why your friends recover. There's no our purpose for you to have it." Goku nodded. "This bean can heal any injury, no matter how severe. It could save your life, restore you completely." A flicker of hope, quickly suppressed, passed across Cooler's face. "And why would you offer me such mercy?" Goku's expression hardened. "Mercy? No. This isn't mercy." He crouched down, bringing the bin closer to Cooler's face. "I'll give you this bin if you beg. Beg for your pathetic life. Apologize for all your sins and evils. Beg like the mad dog you are for mercy, and I'll let you live." Cooler stared at Goku for a long moment, his red eyes searching the Saiyan's teal ones. Then, unexpectedly, he began to laugh, a pained, wheezing sound that nevertheless held genuine amusement. The laughter grew, becoming almost hysterical despite the obvious agony it caused him. Blood bubbled from his lips with each exhalation, yet he couldn't seem to stop. Goku's expression darkened. With a snarl of frustration, he kicked Cooler's prone form, sending the Frost Demon rolling across the ground until he crashed against a boulder. "What's so funny?" Goku demanded, stalking toward him. "Answer me." Cooler's laughter subsided into pained chuckles. He spat out a mouthful of blood before replying. "You've already made up your mind," he said, his voice weak but clear. "Why you decided my fate 10 minutes ago, when you turned into this golden thing. There's no point in begging and humiliating myself only to die anyway." He managed to raise his head slightly, meeting Goku's gaze defiantly. "No, if I'm going to die, I'll die with my head held high." Fury contorted Goku's features. He closed the distance between them in an instant, grabbing Cooler by the throat and lifting him off the ground. "You don't get to die with honor," he snarled, shaking the Frost Demon violently. "Not after what you've done. You're going to beg. You're going to apologize for the lives you've taken." He threw Cooler to the ground and began stomping on him, each impact creating a small crater beneath the Frost Demon's body. "Beg!" Goku roared. "Apologize!" Despite the renewed assault, Cooler continued to laugh, a broken, gurgling sound punctuated by coughs of blood. "I've won," he gasped between blows. In a way, I've won. Goku stopped, breathing heavily, his golden aura fluctuating with his emotions. What are you talking about? With tremendous effort, Cooler pushed himself up onto his elbow, his broken body trembling with the strain. From the moment I arrived, he wheezed, I sensed you. I've never felt a calmer, more peaceful, more righteous energy in the universe. It made me sick. He coughed, more blood spattering the ground, but his eyes remained fixed on Goku's. But look at you now. A savage. A creature of destruction and death. With a final surge of strength, Cooler lunged forward, grabbing the front of Goku's GI with his remaining hand. Like Emi, he shouted, his face inches from Goku's. You're just like me now. The words hit Goku like a physical blow. For a split second, his aura flickered, his eyes widening in shock. Then rage consumed him once more. With a roar that shook the heavens, Goku grabbed Cooler's wrist, breaking his grip on the GI. In one fluid motion, he hurled the Frost Demon skyward with all his might. Shut the hell up and die already! Goku roared. As Cooler's broken body tumbled through the air, Goku cupped his hands at his side, gathering his ki for his signature technique. K. Me. Blue energy swirled between his palms, far more intense than any Kamehameha he'd ever performed. The ground beneath him cracked and cratered from the pressure alone. Ha! Me. The energy compressed, becoming blindingly bright. Goku's entire body trembled with the effort of containing it, his muscles bulging against the fabric of his GI. Ha! The beam that erupted from his hands was massive, a column of blue-white energy that illuminated the entire region. It streaked upward, engulfing Cooler's tumbling form completely. Caught in the heart of the energy wave, Cooler made no attempt to escape. Instead, he spread his arms wide, embracing his destruction. His laughter, somehow audible even above the roar of the Kamehameha, echoed across the wasteland. We're the same, he screamed as the beam carried him higher and higher, out of Earth's atmosphere, past the moon, beyond the planets. Remember this moment, Super Saiyan. Remember when you became like me. What you hate. I'll take this victory with me to hell and wait for you there. Hava hava. The Kamehameha continued its journey through space, pushing Cooler's broken body toward a distant star. When they finally connected, the resulting explosion was visible even from Earth, a brief, brilliant flash that momentarily outshone every other celestial body. And then, silence. Goku stood alone in the crater his attack had created, his hand still extended, his breathing ragged. Slowly, he lowered his arms, staring at his trembling hands as if seeing them for the first time. Cooler was gone. Vaporized completely to Goku's senses, his existence erased from the universe. The threat was over. Earth was safe. Goku looked down at his shaking hands. With a troubled expression, Goku took to the sky, flying back toward where he'd left Vegeta and Piccolo. The golden aura of the Super Saiyan continued to blaze around him. The underground laboratory hummed with the soft, persistent drone of advanced machinery. Screens lined the walls, casting an eerie blue glow across the cavernous space. Each monitor displayed footage from different angles of the battle that had concluded just 24 hours earlier, a golden warrior facing off against a horned, purple-skinned demon. Dr. Gero stood motionless before the central display, his weathered face illuminated by the flickering images. Half of his features remained human, wrinkled skin, a bushy white mustache, piercing blue eyes. The other half had already been converted to mechanical components. Gleaming metal, exposed circuitry, a glowing red optical sensor, he still needed to add the skin on that part. Fascinating, he murmured, his voice carrying a metallic undertone. Simply fascinating. He raised his partially converted hand, the absorption tool remained to be added, manipulating the footage with a couple gestures. The screen zoomed in on Goku's transformation. The moment when grief and rage had triggered something primal within him, unleashing the legendary Super Saiyan form. Such power, Jero whispered reverently. Such magnificent, raw power. The laboratory around him was a testament to decades of obsessive work. Vats of mysterious fluids bubbled along one wall, each containing suspended organic matter in various stages of modification. Robotic arms performed delicate operations on cellular samples. In the corner, a supercomputer processed terabytes of battle data collected by his microscopic tracking devices, technological marvels that had been following the Z fighters for years. Jero turned, his movements unnaturally precise, and walked toward another console. This one displayed a different battle, the confrontation on Namek between TOJI Fushiguro and Frieza. The footage was fragmented, incomplete, frustratingly limited compared to the wealth of data he'd collected on Goku. My greatest challenge, he said to the empty laboratory, and my greatest opportunity. He tapped a sequence on the keyboard, bringing up a series of DNA strands. The computer highlighted areas of interest, comparing them to baseline human genetics. Son Goku's transformation is impressive, certainly, he continued, speaking his thoughts aloud as was his habit in isolation. But it's merely an expression of his alien heritage. Expected, predictable, documented in Sailang legend I found from hacking into CC's data from those scouters. He gestured toward the image of TOJI on the screen. You, however, you are something else entirely. A human anomaly. A mutation so profound it defies all established biological parameters. His voice took on an almost reverent quality. The perfect counterpoint to my own evolution. Jero's attention shifted to another screen displaying a complex molecular analysis. The results were incomplete, the data fragmented. Insufficient, he growled, slamming his mechanical fist against the console. Always insufficient. The source of his frustration was clear. While his tracking devices had collected comprehensive data on Goku, Piccolo, Vegeta, and the other warriors, his information on TOJI Fushiguro remained tantalizingly incomplete. What Jero didn't know, couldn't know, was that TOJI, taking into account of Jero possibly trying to steal his DNA, had constantly destroyed DNA separated from him, that he sensed from his ki in them, with subtle pulses of ki. It was only during the chaotic battle on Namek, when TOJI had been fully absorbed in his fight with Frieza, that a few devices had managed to collect more substantial samples, since TOJI also didn't expect Jero to follow them to Namek. Even the few cells I've obtained demonstrate extraordinary properties, Jero muttered, examining the molecular structure displayed on screen. Adaptive capabilities far beyond normal human parameters. Regenerative potential that is beyond anything I've seen besides Piccolo. He moved to another console, comparing his complete data sets from Goku and the others against the limited information he had on TOJI. Such a waste, he sighed. The most extraordinary human specimen in existence, and I can only study fragments. He zoomed in on footage of TOJI mastering complex fighting techniques after seeing them performed just once. Look at that neural adaptation speed, he marveled. He's not merely copying movements, he's internalizing the underlying principles, improving upon them. In minutes, he achieves what took Son Goku years of dedicated training. Jero's human eye narrowed as he studied the footage. This is what humanity could become, he whispered. What it should become. Not through the random chance of mutation, but through deliberate, scientific advancement. He straightened, his posture becoming more rigid. Two parts of human evolution stand before us, he declared to his empty laboratory. The mind, represented by my own natural transcendence of biological limitation. And the body, represented by this extraordinary specimen, this TOJI Fushiguro. Jero moved through the laboratory with purpose, approaching a section where a partially completed humanoid figure lay on an examination table. The figure was short, rotund, with chalk-white skin and a conical head. Various panels remained open, exposing intricate circuitry beneath. Android 19, Jero explained to himself, running his hand over the incomplete creation. Energy absorption capabilities will allow it to drain opponents' ki, converting it directly into power. A significant improvement over previous models. He adjusted several components within the android's open chest cavity. The absorption mechanism is particularly elegant, integrating the energy to near-perfect control, he continued. Based on my observations of how the human TOJI seems to instinctively regulate and control energy at the same levels, thought at lower measures of power showing more control of energy than anyone else I have observed save that Frieza woman. Though their method appears biological rather than mechanical, the principles remain applicable. Satisfied with his adjustments, Jero moved to another section of the laboratory. Here, a reinforced door led to a sealed chamber. After entering a complex security code, the door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Inside, 3 stasis pods lined the walls, each containing a human-looking figure. Jero approached the first 3, studying the unconscious forms within. Subjects 13, 14, and 15, he noted clinically. The creation of them is proceeding according to schedule. Enhanced strength implementations complete. Energy regulation systems at 67% completeness. He moved to the remaining 2 pods, which contained 2 humans, a young man and woman, teenagers with striking similarities in their features. The twins continue to show the most promise, he remarked, checking the monitors beside their pods. Subject 17 and 18. Their youth provides greater neural plasticity, allowing for more comprehensive enhancement. He tapped the glass of the male twins pod. Still resistant, even in stasis, he observed with clinical detachment. Psychological conditioning will need to be intensified. Their human willfulness remains problematic. Jero's voice carried no empathy as he discussed the fate of the humans he'd abducted, merely the analytical concern of a scientist evaluating experimental subjects. The integration of mechanical components with organic tissue presents unique challenges, he continued, examining readouts from the pods. Nature's design is at times inherently flawed, inefficient. My improvements correct these deficiencies, elevating them beyond their limited potential as non-mutants. He stepped back, surveying all 5 subjects with the dispassionate eye of a creator evaluating his works. Each represents a different approach to enhancement, he explained to himself. Different ratios of organic to mechanical components. Different energy regulation systems. The data from their eventual deployment will prove invaluable for future iterations. A slight smile formed beneath his mustache. The Red Ribbon Army's resources may be gone, but the vision lives on through my work. Through me, humanity will evolve beyond its primitive limitations. Jero exited the chamber, sealing it behind him. His steps carried him to another section of the laboratory. One noticeably separate from the others, with its own independent power supply and reinforced walls. This room was smaller, more personal. Unlike the clinical efficiency of the main laboratory, this space contained touches of individuality, old technical journals, a worn leather chair, photographs in simple frames. Jero approached a workbench where blueprints were spread out in meticulous order. They detailed the design for a large, humanoid figure. More imposing than his other creations, with a distinctly masculine build. Android 16, he said, his voice softening almost imperceptibly. My most advanced design. He picked up a photograph from the bench. It showed a young man in a military uniform, handsome, with a serious expression but kind eyes. Jero whispered. For a moment, the scientist seemed to age, his human features sagging with a grief that his mechanical parts could not express. The memory surfaced unbidden. His son, Jevo, a Red Ribbon Army soldier, falling in battle during Goku's assault on their headquarters so many years ago. Jero set down the photograph with careful precision and turned to a partially constructed face on another workbench. The android's features were already taking shape, deliberately modeled after the young man in the photograph. Unlike the others, Jero said, his voice regaining its clinical tone, 16 will be purely mechanical. No human base to introduce unpredictability or resistance. he adjusted a component in what would eventually be the android's eye. His programming will be focused, singular, the destruction of Son Goku. The boy who took everything from me. Gero's hand lingered on the incomplete face, the gesture almost tender. You will succeed where your predecessor failed, he promised the inanimate components. You will avenge him, and fulfill the purpose for which you were created. The scientist straightened, his moment of sentimentality passing. 16's construction represents the pinnacle of mechanical engineering, he continued, his voice hardening. Yet even this achievement pales in comparison to what nature has produced in TOJI Fushiguro. He returned to the main laboratory, bringing up the fragmented data on TOJI once more. The duality. It is perfect, Gero mused, studying the cellular samples. My mind and his body. The intellectual and the physical. Father and son in the evolutionary tree of humanity's future. He magnified the image, focusing on a particular cellular structure. These cells demonstrate adaptation rates that defy conventional biology, he observed. When exposed to new stimuli, they don't merely respond, they evolve, becoming more efficient with each exposure. Gero pulled up footage of TOJI's battle with Frieza, focusing on moments where the human had copied and improved upon techniques he'd only just witnessed. His neural pathways must be extraordinarily plastic, the scientist theorized. Information processing and physical adaptation occurring simultaneously at rates I've only achieved through extensive cybernetic enhancement. He paced before the screens, his movements becoming more animated as his excitement grew. This is what I predicted in my research decades ago, he exclaimed. The theoretical upper limit of human potential. Not achievable through natural selection over thousands of generations, but possible through targeted genetic manipulation. Gero stopped, staring at TOJI's image with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Except you achieved it naturally, he whispered. A statistical impossibility. A mutation so perfect it should have required centuries of guided evolution. His human eye narrowed. You are what I've been working toward all these years, he continued. The physical embodiment of human potential, just as I represent the intellectual pinnacle. Gero's voice took on a new quality, less scientific, more personal. Don't you see the symmetry? He asked the image on the screen. I am the father of evolution, the mind that guides humanity's ascension beyond its limitations. And you, my boy, are the son, the physical manifestation of that potential. The scientist's language shifted subtly, becoming more possessive, more intimate. Together, we could reshape this world, he continued, reaching out as if to touch the screen. My intellect guiding your strength. Father and son, mind and body, united in purpose. For several minutes, Gero stood transfixed by this vision, this fantasy of partnership with a boy he'd never met, who knew nothing of his existence, raising him to rule alongside him the entire universe. Then, abruptly, clarity returned. The scientist blinked, his rational mind reasserting control. No, he said sharply. No, that's not how it would unfold. He turned away from the screen, moving toward his central console. Sons rebel against fathers, he stated matter-of-factly. It is the natural order. The next generation challenges the previous one, seeking to establish dominance. Gero's fingers tapped rapidly on the keyboard, bringing up new schematics. TOJI Fushiguro would oppose me, he concluded. Despite our natural connection, despite the symmetry of our evolutionary paths, he would resist my guidance. His power makes him unpredictable, uncontrollable. The scientist's expression hardened. I cannot depend on my spiritual son embracing his destiny willingly, he decided. I must prepare for his resistance, just as I prepare for Goku's inevitable death at my hands. Gero moved with sudden purpose toward a section of the laboratory that appeared to be an ordinary wall. He pressed his hand against a hidden panel, and the wall slid away, revealing a corridor beyond. If a son rebels, he continued, walking down the darkened passage, then one must place one's hopes in the grandson. The corridor ended at another sealed door, this one requiring both retinal and voice recognition to open. Beyond lay a chamber unlike any other in the laboratory, smaller, more secure, with a single containment unit at its center. The unit glowed with an eerie green light, illuminating the room from within. Jero approached it reverently, placing his hand against the glass. "My greatest creation," he whispered. Inside the containment unit, suspended in nutrient-rich fluid, floated what appeared to be an embryo, but unlike any natural embryo. Its cells pulsed with an inner light, its developing form already showing signs of an exoskeleton rather than human skin. "Cell," Jero named it, his voice filled with pride. "My grandson. The perfect fusion of natural evolution and scientific advancement." He moved to a nearby console, activating a large screen that displayed detailed genetic schematics. Created from the cellular material of the universe's greatest warriors, he explained to himself. With TOJI Fushiguro and Frieza as the foundation, the primary donors, if you will. The parents. Their son later to be altered, and the cells of the warriors below them who have their own peculiarities and uniqueness to be added. The screen showed complex DNA helixes merging and recombining in patterns no natural organism could produce. During the battle on Namek, my tracking devices managed to collect samples from both of them, Jero continued. Minimal amounts, but sufficient for my purposes. Their genetic material forms the core of cells being strength beyond measure, adaptation beyond limits. He manipulated the display, highlighting additional genetic sequences. Supplemented with DNA from Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo, he added, each contributing unique capabilities. And now, with the recent battle, I've acquired samples from Cooler as well. His genetic material will be the final component. Jero's expression was one of pure scientific ecstasy as he detailed his creation's capabilities. Cell will possess the ability to absorb other beings, he explained, incorporating their power into his own. Multiple developmental stages have been programmed into his biology, each one bringing him closer to perfection. He returned to the containment unit, watching the embryonic form pulse with life. Where I might fail, where even my spiritual son might resist, Jero said softly, you, my grandson, will succeed. You will be my legacy, the perfect fusion of mind and body, of science and nature. The embryo shifted slightly in its fluid environment, as if responding to its creator's voice. You will fulfill the destiny that awaits us all, Jero promised it. The evolution of humanity beyond its fragile limitations. The ascension to perfection. Outside the laboratory, night had fallen across the mountains. The world continued unaware of the horror gestating beneath its surface, a being created from the cells of the universe's mightiest warriors, designed to surpass them all. A son made to challenge his monster of a father. In his hidden sanctuary, Dr. Jero smiled at his creation, his grandson, as it pulsed with otherworldly life. Rest now, he whispered to the embryonic cell. Grow strong. You have time yet. Warmth. That was TOJI's first conscious thought as awareness slowly returned to him. Unusual warmth pressed against his chest, soft and smooth against his skin. He kept his eyes closed, savoring the sensation for a moment before reality began to filter back in. His eyes snapped open. Frieza lay curled against him, her white hair splayed across his chest, her head rising and falling with each breath he took. Both of them were completely naked beneath the makeshift blanket of animal hides they'd fashioned days earlier. I just smashed with the Empress of the Universe, TOJI thought after a long moment of taking it in, staring at the cave ceiling. Repeatedly. What the hell am I doing with my life? He glanced down at her sleeping form, struck by how different she looked in this vulnerable state. Peaceful. Almost innocent. Nothing like the murderous tyrant who had tried to kill him even during their most intimate moments. Just last night, he'd had to grip her neck firmly while she sucked him off, making sure she wouldn't suddenly decide to bite off his manhood with the threat of him snapping her neck if she did. Their encounters were always a dangerous dance between pleasure and violence, neither fully trusting the other even in their most vulnerable moments. And yet here she was, sleeping trustingly against his chest, her expression relaxed in a way he'd never seen before. Cautiously, Toji ran his fingers through her silky white hair. To his surprise, Frieza made a soft purring sound, unconsciously leaning into his touch like a contented cat. "How cute! I like it. I want to hear it more," he thought to himself as he continued to do so more. The moment shattered when her eyes suddenly flew open, meeting his gaze with a startled look. Toji couldn't help the smirk that formed on his lips. "Morning, Sleeping Beauty." Frieza's reaction was immediate. She leapt away from him as if burned, her fist flying toward his face in the same motion. Toji twisted his head to the side, her knuckles missing him by millimeters and slamming into the cave wall behind him. The impact cracked the stone, sending small fragments skittering across the floor. Toji lunged forward, tackling her. They rolled across the cave floor, a tangle of naked limbs and animal hides, until Toji managed to pin her beneath him. He grabbed her wrists, forcing them above her head and using his superior weight to keep her immobilized. "I'm not in the mood for this right now," he said firmly, staring down at her. Frieza glared up at him, her chest heaving with exertion. "Release me immediately, you inferior." She froze mid-sentence, her eyes widening slightly. Toji felt it too, his body's natural reaction to their position, his arousal now pressing unmistakably against her thigh. For a moment, they both remained perfectly still. A blush crept across Frieza's pale cheeks, mirroring the heat Toji could feel in his own face. "That's not what I meant to do," Toji admitted, his voice rougher than intended. "Clearly your primitive body has other ideas," Frieza replied, a usual haughty tone undermined by the flush spreading down her neck. Toji released her wrists and backed away, grabbing one of the animal hides to cover himself. "Let's just get dressed." An excellent suggestion, Frieza agreed, snatching another hide to wrap around herself. Later that morning, they sat across from each other at the small fire they built near the cave entrance. A large, six-legged creature that resembled a cross between a deer and a lizard roasted on a spit between them. They'd hunted it together the previous day, though both would have claimed they made the killing blow if asked. "You're holding your spear incorrectly," Frieza commented, tearing a strip of meat from the bone with her teeth. "The balance point should be closer to the middle for optimal throwing distance." Toji rolled his eyes. "I know how to throw a spear." "No, you clearly don't," Frieza replied with a smirk. "Your form yesterday was abysmal." "My abysmal form still brought down dinner," Toji countered, gesturing to the roasting meat. "After I drove it into your path," Frieza reminded him. "You mean after you missed your first throw," Toji corrected. Their banter continued as they ate, a strange comfort developing in their routine. The days on this jungle planet had fallen into a pattern, hunting, exploring, sparring, and eventually ending up entangled in each other's arms, anger and frustration at not being able to kill each other, leading them to smashing to let it out upon the other. The weeks passed, marked by subtle changes. Their attempts to kill each other grew less frequent, more perfunctory, Frieza occasionally accidentally pushing Toji toward an absorption pool, Toji retaliating by pushing her in the way of a beast. But these attempts lacked their earlier viciousness. They became almost playful, like dangerous games rather than genuine murder attempts. One morning, a month after their first night together, they were sparring in a small clearing near their cave. Toji ducked under Frieza's roundhouse kick, countering with a sweep aimed at her legs. She jumped over it gracefully, landing with perfect balance before launching into a series of rapid strikes. "Your defense has improved," she acknowledged as he blocked each hit. "Though your counter timing still needs work," says the woman who telegraphs her left hook, Toji replied, catching her fist mid-strike and using her momentum to pull her off balance. Toji feinted left, then threw a right cross aimed at Frieza's jaw. To his surprise, instead of blocking or dodging as expected, she suddenly doubled over, his punch sailing over her head as she collapsed toward the ground. His combat instincts immediately shifted to concern. Frieza? He caught her before she hit the dirt, supporting her weight as she hunched forward. What's wrong? Instead of answering, Frieza made a strangled sound, and then vomited directly onto his thigh. What the dash? TOJI jumped back reflexively, but kept his hands on her shoulders to steady her. Are you sick? Did you eat something weird? Frieza continued retching, her body shaking with each heave. Despite his disgust at the warm liquid soaking into his makeshift pants, TOJI's concern overrode his revulsion. He scooped her into his arms and carried her back toward their cave. Put me down, she protested weakly, but made no real attempt to free herself. Inside the cave, he laid her carefully on their bed of furs, then stepped back to assess the damage to his clothing. I'll be right back, he promised, heading to the nearby stream to clean himself. When he returned, clean but damp, Frieza was sitting up, her face flushed with what appeared to be equal parts illness and fury. As soon as she saw him, she grabbed a nearby stone tool and hurled it at his head. This is your fault, she shouted, reaching for another projectile. TOJI dodged the first missile, then the second. What's my fault? What's happening? This. Frieza gestured violently at herself, throwing another object, a bone from last night's dinner, that whizzed past his ear. You did this to me. TOJI sidestepped another projectile, genuinely confused. Did what? Are you poisoned? Infected? What? I didn't do any of those this time. Frieza's violet eyes flashed with rage as she screamed, You got me pregnant, you idiot. TOJI froze in shock, so completely stunned that the last thrown object, a small hunting knife, grazed his cheek, drawing a thin line of blood. Oh, he said, his mind struggling to process her words. The silence stretched between them, broken only by Frieza's labored breathing. But how can you know so soon? TOJI finally asked, his voice unnaturally calm. It's only been a month since we started, you know. Even if you were pregnant, morning sickness doesn't usually start this early, right? Are you seriously? Frieza closed her eyes, visibly trying to control her temper. I may look like your species, but I am a frost demon, you absolute cretin. Our reproductive cycle is accelerated compared to your primitive species. TOJI stared at her, the implication slowly dawning on him. How accelerated? 24 hours, Frieza spat. From conception to birth. 24 hours. TOJI's leg suddenly felt weak. He sank down onto a nearby rock, his eyes never leaving Frieza's face, searching for any sign that this was an elaborate joke. Her expression, a mixture of fury, discomfort, and what looked suspiciously like fear, convinced him she was telling the truth. So, by tomorrow. TOJI's voice was barely above a whisper. I'll be a father. Yes. And I'll be a mother. Frieza confirmed, half angry, half terrified. The next several hours passed in a blur. Frieza's condition deteriorated rapidly, her body changing to accommodate the accelerated pregnancy. TOJI, despite his complete lack of experience with childbirth, did everything he could to make her comfortable, gathering soft materials for bedding, bringing fresh water, applying cool compresses when she developed a fever. He didn't sleep, constantly checking on her throughout the day and into the night. When she wasn't cursing his existence, Frieza explained between waves of discomfort that frost demon pregnancies were typically endured in isolation, a sign of weakness to be hidden from potential enemies. You should be honored, she hissed during a particularly intense contraction. No one has ever witnessed a frost demon birth and lived to tell about it. Lucky me, TOJI replied dryly, replacing the damp cloth on her forehead. As the 24-hour mark approached, Frieza's discomfort reached its peak. A sudden rush of fluid signaled her water breaking, and true labor began. Panic gripped TOJI as he realized he was about to deliver a baby with absolutely no medical training or equipment. The original TOJI's instincts provided no guidance, he'd never been present for a birth before. What do I do? he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. How should I know? Frieza snarled through gritted teeth. I've never done this before either. Together, they fumbled through the process, TOJI positioning himself to catch the baby, Frieza alternating between pushing and threatening to eviscerate him once this was over. After what felt like an eternity but was likely only an hour, with one final push, their child entered the world. The baby's first cry echoed through the cave, strong, defiant, a perfect blend of his parents' stubborn natures. It's a boy, TOJI announced, his voice filled with wonder as he carefully cleaned the infant with a soft cloth. In that exact moment, as the baby took his first breath, something extraordinary happened. A surge of energy coursed through both TOJI and Frieza simultaneously, their ki, dormant for weeks, suddenly rushing back in full force. Power flooded TOJI's body, familiar yet somehow different, stronger, more refined, as if his time without ki had taught him to channel it more effectively. He glanced up to see Frieza experiencing the same phenomenon, her aura briefly visible as a purple haze around her exhausted form. The moment their powers returned, Frieza leapt away from TOJI and the baby, putting distance between herself and them. Her expression was unreadable, a complex mixture of emotions flashing across her features too quickly to identify. Inside Frieza's mind, a battle was raging. Looking at the tiny infant in TOJI's arms, she felt something she'd never experienced before, a powerful, instinctive pull toward the child. A desire to protect, to nurture, to love. The feeling terrified her more than anything she'd ever faced. Throughout her centuries of conquest, she'd used parental bonds against countless enemies. She'd slaughtered children while forcing parents to watch, exploiting that weakness to break even the strongest opponents. She knew intimately how devastating such attachments could be. And now, she was experiencing it herself. This vulnerability. This love. No, she thought fiercely. I will not be weak. I will not be vulnerable. I must cut this off at the root. TOJI watched her internal struggle, cradling their son carefully in a protective bubble of ki. The baby had his black hair but Frieza's striking violet eyes, a perfect blend of both parents. Look at him, TOJI said softly, holding the infant where Frieza could see him. Look how beautiful he is. Frieza remained silent, her expression hardening. After a long moment of silence, staring down each other, he began speaking again. Can we stop? TOJI asked, his voice gentle but firm. Can we stop trying to kill each other? For him? We have a son together, Frieza. I distinctly recall that you started this by trying to choke me to death, Frieza replied coldly. That was because you were a threat then, TOJI acknowledged. But things are different now. We're different. He took a step toward her, the baby floating safely in his ki bubble. If you stop being a threat, I'll stop too. For our son. Frieza stood motionless, her internal conflict visible only in the slight trembling of her hands at her sides. For a long moment, TOJI thought she might be considering his words. Then her expression hardened into something cruel and distant. I never wanted this thing, she said, her voice dripping with disdain. I hate you both. If I'd had my powers earlier, I would have killed it in the womb. The words hit TOJI like physical blows. Rage exploded within him, his newly returned ki flaring violently. In an instant, he appeared before Frieza, his fist connecting with her face. The impact sent her crashing to the ground, blood spilling from her mouth. Before she could recover, TOJI was on top of her, his hands around her throat, squeezing. I could kill you right now, he snarled, his face contorted with fury. We've both gotten stronger, but I've grown more than you have. With the Kaioken, you wouldn't stand a chance. Frieza glared up at him defiantly, making no move to defend herself. From behind them came a soft, mewling cry, their son, distressed by the sudden flare of power. The sound cut through TOJI's rage like nothing else could. As he stared down at her, searching for any sign of her backing down, seeing none, his face twisted with emotional pain as he released Frieza's throat and rose to his feet. Without looking at her, he returned to their son, taking the infant gently in his arms. "Leave," he said, "he's back to Frieza. I don't want to see your face again until you're ready to be there for him. For us." Frieza stood slowly, one hand touching her bruised throat. Something unfamiliar ached in her chest as she looked at TOJI cradling their child. Without a word, after a long moment, she rose into the air and flew away, disappearing into the emerald sky. TOJI extended his key sense, tracking her departure, ready to intervene if she attempted to destroy the planet from orbit. But she simply flew far away, her energy signature eventually fading with distance. Alone with his son, TOJI looked down at the tiny face peering up at him. The baby had his black hair but Frieza's striking violet eyes, a beautiful combination of both parents. "You need a name, little one," he whispered, feeling an overwhelming surge of love unlike anything he'd ever experienced. After a moment's consideration, he smiled softly. "Megumi. It means a blessing. I think I know why he chose that name for his son now. Seeing this baby. My son, he to me just feels like is the most important thing in the world. Is this what all fathers feel? What people called unconditional love?" He held his son closer, marveling at how someone so small could instantly become the center of his universe. "Your mother might not want you right now," he said softly, "but your father will always be here. I'll always love you, and I'll never abandon you." TOJI pressed a gentle kiss to his son's forehead. "I'm new at this, I didn't really plan it," he admitted, "but I already love you more than anything in this world." Father and son remained together under the sky, the beginning of a new life neither had expected. The soft hum of the spaceship's engines provided a steady backdrop as Bulma sat alone at the control panel, her slender fingers dancing across the holographic display. She monitored their course through the vast emptiness of space, occasionally glancing at the status indicators that showed life support systems functioning at optimal levels. Behind her, the ship bustled with quiet activity. The Namekians had converted part of the vessel into a meditation chamber, while Gohan diligently worked on his studies in another section, Kai hovering nearby to ensure he didn't slack off. Master Roshi and Ox King were likely in the common area, trying to keep spirits up with stories and humor. But Bulma's mind was elsewhere. Somewhere out there, beyond the blur of passing stars, was TOJI, fighting, surviving, maybe even. "No," she muttered to herself, pressing her forehead against the cool glass of her table, "don't think about it." But King Kai's words echoed in her mind like an unwelcome melody. "TOJI is kissing Frieza." The mental image it conjured of TOJI kissing that woman, that evil empress, made her stomach twist in knots. She knew it was ridiculous to feel this way. TOJI had been dying, suffocating in the vacuum of space. The kiss was desperation, survival, nothing more. She and TOJI barely knew each other. They weren't in a relationship. There was no logical reason for this hollow ache in her chest, he wasn't hers. And yet, Bulma retreated from the control panel, finding herself wandering to her small quarters. She'd brought only essentials when they'd evacuated Earth, but among them was her tablet loaded with books, including the fairy tales she'd loved as a girl. She opened The Sleeping Beauty, the digital pages glowing softly in the dim light of her room. Inside was the story of a princess awakened by true love's kiss. But in TOJI's case, the kiss hadn't been given to the princess, it had been stolen from the dragon. "That's not how the story is supposed to go," she whispered, switching to another book. Beauty and the Beast. A tale of seeing past appearances to find love. But Frieza wasn't a misunderstood beast with a heart of gold. She was a tyrant, a monster who had killed billions. TOJI wasn't going to discover her hidden goodness with a magical rose. Bulma snorted. "More like Beauty is the Beast." Next came The Little Mermaid, not the sanitized version, but the original where the mermaid sacrifices everything for a prince who never notices her. Bulma had always hated that ending. "Is that me?" she wondered aloud. Am I the mermaid watching from the sidelines while he chooses someone else? She remembered being 16, meeting Goku for the first time, a wild boy with a tail and incredible strength. How she'd grown fond of him over their adventures. Then, years later at the tournament, seeing him all grown up, handsome and powerful, only for Kai to claim him with a childhood promise Goku barely remembered. History repeats itself. The hero then chose another princess, she murmured bitterly. And now another is probably choosing the evil empress instead. The ship's engines hummed a steady rhythm as she opened St. George and the Dragon. The hero slaying the terrible beast to save the kingdom. But in this twisted version, the hero was kissing the dragon instead of slaying it. He's supposed to rescue the princess from the tower, Bulma said, tossing the tablet aside. Not fall for the fire-breathing monster guarding it. The irony wasn't lost on her. She, Bulma Briefs, genius heiress to the Capsule Corporation, was casting herself as the helpless princess in these stories. She, who had always prided herself on being independent, resourceful, the heroine of her own tale. Princess Bulma, fleeing in her technological chariot while the hero's busy locking lips with the villain, she laughed humorlessly. What a joke! What was it with her? Why was she always second choice, or not even a choice at all? Was she that unwanted? Her previous boyfriend cheated on her, and the two men in her life she fell for, both chose or are choosing someone else. She picked up her tablet again, opening Snow White, the princess poisoned by the jealous queen, saved by true love's kiss. Was Frieza the evil queen in this scenario? Powerful, beautiful in her own way, and utterly ruthless. But I'm not lying in a glass coffin, Bulma muttered. I'm hurtling through space, running away. She remembered the way TOJI had looked at her sometimes during their journey to Namek, those quiet moments when their eyes would meet, and something unspoken would pass between them. Had she imagined it? Projected her growing feelings onto casual glances. Rapunzel was next, the princess trapped in her tower, letting down her hair for the prince to climb. Bulma had certainly let down her defenses for TOJI, showing him vulnerability she rarely revealed to others. But unlike the fairy tale, no one was climbing up to rescue her from her self-imposed isolation. He's probably still out there with her, Bulma whispered, the thought bringing unexpected tears to her eyes. The evil empress who tried to destroy Earth, kill his friends, and somehow that's who he ends up with. She scrolled to the Frog Prince, reading angrily. At least the princess in this one had to kiss a frog, not a genocidal space lizard. Her looking like a beautiful woman or not? Bulma closed the app, suddenly feeling childish. What was she doing, comparing her life to fairy tales? She was a scientist, a genius, a woman who had helped save the world multiple times. Not some damsel waiting to be chosen. And yet, she opened the last story, Cinderella. The tale of a kind-hearted girl, overlooked and underestimated, who finally gets noticed by the prince at the ball. Bulma had always identified with parts of this story. Not the suffering servant part, of course, but the transformation, the moment of recognition when everyone finally sees your true worth. I don't need a prince, Bulma told herself firmly. I've never needed one. But as she set the tablet down, she couldn't help wondering if TOJI would ever see her the way she'd begun to see him, not as just an ally or friend, but as maybe something more. The princess and the hero, she whispered, that's how the story is supposed to go. Not the hero and the Dragon Empress. She moved back to the observation window, looking out at the stars once more. In fairy tales, the princess always gets her happy ending, Bulma said softly to the void of space. But this isn't a fairy tale. And I'm not just a princess waiting to be saved. She straightened her shoulders, a new resolve forming within her. If TOJI returned, when he returned, she wouldn't be the passive princess from her childhood stories. She would be Bulma Briefs. Brilliant, beautiful, and brave enough to fight for what she wanted. Even if what she wanted was currently lost among the stars, kissing the dragon instead of slaying it. A sudden beeping from the console pulled Bulma from her thoughts. The communication system was activating, indicating an incoming call from Earth. Her heart jumped. News, finally! She rushed back to the control panel, pressing the accept button with trembling fingers. The screen flickered to life, revealing her father's face. Dr. Briefs looked older somehow, the lines around his eyes deeper than when she'd last seen him. "Dad," she exclaimed. "Is everything okay? What's happening?" Dr. Briefs adjusted his glasses, his ever-present cap perched on his shoulder. "Hello, sweetheart. I have news. The battle is over. You can turn course and return to Earth now." "What happened? Is everyone okay?" Bulma leaned closer to the screen. "Cooler is dead," her father said solemnly. "Goku defeated him." Relief flooded through her, but something in her father's tone made her pause. "But?" Dr. Brief sighed heavily. "There were casualties, I'm afraid. Krillin and Nappa didn't make it." The words hit Bulma like a physical blow. "Krillin?" "No." Her voice cracked. Krillin had been her friend since childhood, brave, loyal, always there when needed. "I should get the others," she managed to say, pressing the ship-wide communication button. "Everyone to the bridge, please. We have news from Earth." Within minutes, the bridge filled with concerned faces. Gohan arrived first, followed by Kai and Ox King. Master Roshi entered last, leaning on his staff, several Namekians behind him. "Dad, can you repeat what you just told me?" Bulma asked, her voice steadier now. Dr. Briefs nodded. "The battle against Cooler is over. Goku defeated him, but..." He paused, his expression grave. "I'm sorry to say that Krillin and Nappa didn't survive." Gohan's reaction was immediate and heartbreaking. The boy's face crumpled as tears welled in his eyes. "No. Not Krillin," he cried out, his small body shaking with sobs. Kai quickly wrapped her arms around her son, her own eyes glistening. "But Goku is okay?" she asked, voice trembling. "Yes," Dr. Briefs confirmed. "Goku is physically unharmed." Master Roshi had gone very still, his sunglasses hiding his eyes but not the grief etched into his weathered face. "Krillin was one of my finest students," he said quietly. "He died a warrior's death, I'm sure." The Ox King placed his massive hand on Roshi's shoulder, offering silent support. From the back of the group, Elder Mori stepped forward. The elderly Namekian's expression was solemn but held a glimmer of hope. "Perhaps I can offer some comfort in this dark moment," he said, his deep voice resonating in the quiet room. "We have recreated our Dragon Balls. They are once again functional." Bulma's head snapped up. "You have? So we can wish Krillin and Nappa back and everyone else who died against the Sairs back?" "Yes," Mori confirmed. "Once we reach Earth, we can summon Porunga and make our wishes." A flicker of hope spread through the group, the heavy atmosphere lightening slightly. "Dad," Bulma turned back to the screen, "how are Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo? You said they survived, but are they okay?" Dr. Brief stroked his cat absently. "They're physically fine." "Those magic beans dashed at Senzu beans," Bulma corrected automatically. "Yes, those. They healed their physical injuries completely." He hesitated. "But Goku seems different. Krillin's death hit him particularly hard. He's not quite himself." Kai's grip on Gohan tightened. "What do you mean, not himself?" "It's difficult to explain," Dr. Brief said. "He's quieter, more intense. Vegeta mentioned something about a transformation, but I don't fully understand it." "We're setting course for Earth now," Bulma informed him, already inputting the new coordinates. "We should arrive in about 6 hours." "We'll be waiting," Dr. Briefs replied. "Safe journey, sweetheart." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in contemplative silence. "I'll adjust our course," Bulma said, turning to the navigation controls. "We're going home." As the ship changed direction, Elder Mori cleared his throat. "While we journey back to Earth, I believe there is something important I should share with you all. Something about the Dragon Balls that you should understand." "What is it?" Gohan asked, wiping away his tears. "Perhaps we should move to the common area," Mori suggested. "This will take some time to explain properly." The ship's common area was spacious enough to accommodate everyone comfortably. They sat in a rough circle, all attention focused on Elder Mori as he settled himself in the center. "First, I must thank you again for saving our people," the Namekian elder began. "Because of your heroism, we will gladly help you with wishes from our Dragon Balls. However, there is something you should know, something we normally do not share with outsiders." He paused, his weathered green face solemn. "I must explain to you the dangers of the Dragon Balls." "Dangers?" Master Roshi leaned forward, his interest piqued. "I've always sensed there must be more to their power than we understood." Mori nodded. "To understand the risk, you must first understand where the dragons draw their power from. The dragons themselves exist in a realm beyond this universe. They are created through the power of the Dragon Ball creator and possess powerful magic, capable of doing almost anything within certain limits." "Like what limits?" Bulma asked, her curiosity engaged despite the somber mood. "For this magic to work, it needs fuel," Mori explained. "That fuel is the key of the Dragon Ball creator. The dragon cannot perform feats beyond the amount of ki the creator can safely bestow upon the dragon to convert into magical power. So the stronger the creator, the stronger the wishes can be." Gohan asked, quickly grasping the concept. "Precisely," Mori said with an approving nod. "The dragon therefore cannot affect someone significantly stronger than the creator of the Dragon Balls. This is what happened with your head warrior, TOJI. When he did not wish to be teleported to Earth from Namek, even if we had included him in our wish, it would not have worked. His will and power were simply too great." "Fascinating," Bulma murmured. "That explains a lot about how the wishes work. But you mentioned dangers. What exactly is the risk of using Dragon Balls?" Mori's expression grew more serious. "Though we've never witnessed this ourselves, we have asked the dragons about the consequences of using their power. What they told us was concerning." The elder shifted, his robes rustling in the silence as everyone leaned closer. "Each wish made has, depending on its nature, an effect on creation, either positive or negative. When we wished for the revival of our people and their transport to Earth, it created an abundance of positive energy in the universe, the blooming of life." "That sounds good," Kai said hesitantly. "What's the problem with positive energy?" "Balance," Mori replied simply. "In consequence, inside the Dragon Balls, negative energy forms to balance it out. Normally, this negative energy disperses over millennia. But if many wishes are made that do not bring death or destruction to the universe, wishes that preserve or create life, more and more negative energy will fill the Dragon Balls." His voice dropped lower, taking on an almost reverent tone of warning. "Eventually, this corrupts the dragons themselves. They will descend into this world, no longer bound to their makers. Their power will come from the negative energy, allowing them to use it as fuel for power beyond measure." "And what happens then?" Ox King asked, his normally jovial face creased with concern. "They will have a single desire, to balance the universe by bringing equal death, destruction, and war into it. Only when they feel the balance has been restored will they return to slumber in their realm." A heavy silence fell over the group as they absorbed this information. "So you're saying," Bulma finally spoke, "that by making gooder wishes, we could eventually create something terrible?" "In essence, yes," Mori confirmed. "This is why we must be cautious with the Dragon Balls. They are not toys or simple wish-granting devices. They are powerful tools that affect the very fabric of existence." "But I've heard that we've been using the Dragon Balls for years," Gohan exclaimed. Are Earth's Dragon Balls storing negative energy too? Most likely, yes, Mori said gently. Though I cannot say how much has accumulated. It depends on how many wishes have been made and their nature. Wishes to provide aid and save those who bring immense positive energy in the universe will cause by consequence immense negative energy to form inside the Dragon Balls. Master Roshi stroked his beard thoughtfully. I've heard ancient legends and religious stories that hinted at this. Tales of beings who once brought destruction to balance creation. I always thought they were just stories. Many stories contain kernels of truth, Mori replied. So what should we do? Kai asked, her protective instincts flaring. Should we stop using the Dragon Balls altogether? Not necessarily, Mori said. But we should use them with great care and understanding of the consequences. For instance, we could limit ourselves to truly necessary wishes, or perhaps find ways to disperse the negative energy safely. Could we wish for the negative energy to be removed? Ox King suggested. Mori shook his head. That would only create more negative energy in response to such a positive wish. The cycle would continue. What if we made a negative wish? Bulma proposed, her scientific mind seeking solutions. Something destructive to balance out the positive wishes. That is theoretically possible, Mori acknowledged. But who among us would wish for destruction? What conscience could bear such a burden? The question hung in the air, unanswerable. I have faith, Mori continued after a moment, that Earth's heroes wouldn't make wishes that cause destruction simply to balance energy. Your hearts are too good for that. But understanding the risk is important. Gohan, ever thoughtful, raised his hand as if in class. Elder Mori, if balance is so important, why did the universe get unbalanced in the first place? Shouldn't positive and negative always be equal? Mori smiled at the boy's perceptive question. An excellent point, young one. The universe naturally seeks balance, but free will, the choices of conscious beings, can temporarily create imbalances. The Dragon Balls accelerate this process dramatically. It's like ecological systems, Bulma mused. Push them too far in one direction, and they eventually snap back, sometimes catastrophically. A fitting analogy, Mori agreed. The ship's navigation system suddenly chimed, a mechanical voice announcing, approaching Earth orbit. Prepare for landing sequence in 2 hours. Through the viewports, they could see Earth growing larger, the blue and green jewel of their home planet. Bulma rose, moving to the window. As she gazed at the approaching Earth, her thoughts returned to TOJI. Would he ever return? And if he did, what would he find when he got here? We're almost home, she whispered, placing her palm against the cool glass. Behind her, the others were still discussing Elder Mori's revelations, but Bulma's mind was elsewhere, with a man lost among the stars, possibly in the arms of a tyrant empress. The ship began its landing sequence, descending toward a planet forever changed by the battle that had taken place in their absence.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.